for her to say something like, I fully intend on winning this election. That's one of the lines that she gets that sort of sparkler in her eye when she says it, with conviction. She's not in the race just to raise her profile. She's here to win.
Which is interesting because I think she's someone who could actually stand to gain tonight.
Yeah,
I actually, someone people are watching.
I expect her to do very, very well. I mean, to the points that Zerlina made, every single time we've seen her in a setting where she's debating someone or she's questioning someone, she stands out the most. And I think what's interesting about Kamala is when you think about black women. Black women seeing Kamala Harris as someone who empowers them. That's very, very important. And we cannot underestimate that. Absolutely. I wouldn't underestimate it.
And just finally, one thing that we've heard a lot from voters, but that we didn't touch on tonight, was the economy. I mean, something we heard from the other candidates last night was their intention to show how an economic plan under a Democratic president could beat that of Trump's. How could the candidates tonight do that?
Well, that's where I think Biden, again, has some explaining to do. You know, he did make those remarks that were obviously widely criticized and picked up about working with segregationist Democrats. But during those same remarks, he also said that nothing would change for this group of wealthy donors, that things would be exactly the same. And a lot of people took that to interpret that they wouldn't be paying more money, they wouldn't be subject to a wealth tax that a lot of the other candidates are pushing for. And that's where I think someone like Bernie Sanders has the opportunity to shine, at least in a certain age group, potentially, because, again, he does have this multifaceted approach to building the economy with his student debt plan, with his wealth tax. And I think that he is unparalleled on the stage in terms of offering that spectrum of policies.
With less than 1 minute to go until these candidates, they are already on the stage, but when they begin, strategically, do you think it's going to be more important for the candidates to address perhaps some of their shortcomings or the evolution of their ideas, or do you think it's going to be more important for them to begin with a brand new plan for America?
I think they need to show how they're better than Donald Trump and how they can defeat him. Simple.
So tonight is about Trump. All right, guys, thank you so much. And this is the moment we've been waiting for. We are about to see the candidates take the stage. Stay right here because we are headed straight to Miami.
Good evening, I'm Lester Holt, and welcome to night 2 of the first Democratic debate in the 2020 race for president.
Good evening, I'm Savannah Guthrie. Last night we heard from 10 candidates, and now 10 more take the stage.
And again tonight we'll be joined in the questioning by our colleagues, Jose Diaz-Balart, Chuck Todd, and Rachel Maddow.
The candidates are in position, so let's get started.
Tonight, round 2, Colorado Senator Michael Bennet, former Vice President Joe Biden, South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg, New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, California Senator Kamala Harris, former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, California Congressman Eric Swalwell, author Marianne Williamson, and former tech executive Andrew Yang. From NBC News, Decision 2020, the Democratic Candidates Debate. Live from the Adrian Arsht Performing Arts Center in Miami, Florida.
America tonight. We continue this spirited debate about the future of the country, how to tackle our most pressing problems, and getting to the heart of the biggest issues in this Democratic primary.
Tonight we're going to talk about health care, immigration. We're also going to dive into the economy, jobs, climate change as well.
And some quick rules of the road before we begin, and they may sound familiar. 20 candidates qualified for this first debate. As we said, we heard from 10 last night, and we'll hear from 10 more tonight. The breakdown for each night was selected at random. The candidates will have 60 seconds to answer, 30 seconds for any follow-ups.
And because of the large field of candidates, not every person is going to be able to weigh in on every topic. But over the course of the next 2 hours, we will hear from everyone.
And we love our audience, but we'd like to ask them to keep their reactions to a minimum, and we're not going to hold back in making sure the candidates stick to time. So with that business taken care of, let's get to it. And we're going to start today with Senator Sanders. Good evening to you. You've called for big new government benefits like universal health care and free college. In a recent interview, you said you suspected that Americans would be, quote, delighted to pay more taxes for things like that. My question to you is, will taxes go up for the middle class in a Sanders administration? And if so, how do you sell that to voters?
Well, you're quite right. We have a new vision for America. And at a time when we have 3 people in this country owning more wealth than the bottom half of America, while 500,000 people are sleeping out on the streets today, we think it is time for change, real change. And by that I mean that health care, in my view, is a human right. And we have got to pass a Medicare for all single-payer system. Under that system, by the way, vast majority of the people in this country will be paying significantly less for health care than they are right now. I believe that education is the future for this country. And that is why I believe that we must make public colleges and universities tuition-free and eliminate student debt. And we do that by placing a tax on Wall Street. Every proposal that I have brought forth is fully paid for.
Senator Sanders, I'll give you 10 seconds just to answer the very direct question. Will you raise taxes for the middle class in a Sanders administration?
People who have health care under Medicare for all will have no premiums, no deductibles, no co-payments, no out-of-pocket expenses. Yes, they will pay more in taxes, but less in health care for what they get.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Bennett, we're going to get to everybody, I promise, but let me just, Senator Biden, promise everybody's going to get in here, promise. Vice President Biden, Senator Sanders, as you know, has been calling for a revolution. Recently, in remarks to a group of wealthy donors, as you were speaking about the problem of income inequality in this country, you said, we shouldn't, quote, demonize the rich. You said, nobody has to be punished. No one's standard of living would change. Nothing would fundamentally change. What did you mean by that?
What I meant by that is, look, Donald Trump thinks Wall Street built America. Ordinary middle-class Americans build America. My dad used to have an expression. He said, Joe, a job is about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's being able to look your kid in the eye and say everything's going to be okay. Too many people who are in the middle class and poor have had the bottom fall out under this proposal. What I'm saying is that we've got to be straightforward. We have to make sure we understand that to return dignity to the middle class, they have to have insurance that is covered and they can afford it. They have to make sure that we are in a situation where there's continuing education and they're able to pay for it. And they have to make sure that they're able to breathe air that is clean and they have water that they can drink. Look, Donald Trump has put us in a horrible situation. We do have enormous income inequality. And the one thing I agree on is we can make massive cuts in the $1.6 trillion in tax loopholes out there, and I would be going about eliminating Donald Trump's tax cuts for the wealthy.
Vice President Biden, thank you. Senator Harris, there's a lot of talk in this primary about new government benefits, such as student loan cancellation, free college, health care, and more. Do you think that Democrats have a responsibility to explain how they will pay for every proposal they make along those lines?
Well, let me tell you something. I hear that question, but where was that question when the Republicans and Donald Trump passed a tax bill that benefits the top 1% and the biggest corporations in this country, contributing at least $1 trillion to the debt of America, which middle-class families will pay for one way or another? Working families need support and need to be lifted up, and frankly, this economy is not working for working people. For too long, the rules have been written in the favor of the people who have the most and not in favor of the people who work the most, which is why I am proposing that we change the tax code so for every family that is making less than $100,000 a year, they will receive a tax credit that they can collect up to $500 a month, which will make all the difference between those families being able to get through the end of the month with dignity and with support or not. And on day one, I will repeal that tax bill that benefits the top 1% and the biggest corporations of America.
Senator Harris, thank you. Governor Hickens Looper, let me get you in on this. You've warned that Democrats will lose in 2020 if they embrace socialism, as you put it. You were booed at the California Democratic Convention when you said that. Only one candidate on this stage, Senator Sanders, identifies himself as a democratic socialist. What are the policies or positions of your opponents that you think are veering towards socialism?
Well, I think that the bottom line is if we don't clearly define that we are not socialists, the Republicans are going to come at us every way they can and call us socialists. And if you look at the Green New Deal, which I admire the sense of urgency and how important it is to do climate change, I'm a scientist, but we can't promise every American a government job. If you want to get universal health care coverage, I believe that health care is a right and not a privilege. But you can't expect to eliminate private insurance for 180 million people, many of whom don't want to give it up. In Colorado, we brought businesses and nonprofits together. We got to near universal health care coverage. We were the first state in America to bring the environmental community and the oil and gas industry to aggressively address methane emissions. And we were also the first place to expand reproductive rights on a scale basis, and we reduced teen pregnancy by 54%. We've done the big progressive things that people said couldn't be done. I've done what pretty much everyone else up here is still talking about doing.
Governor, thank you. Senator Sanders, I'll give you a chance to weigh in here. What is your response to those who say nominating a socialist would re-elect Donald Trump?
Well, I think the responses at the polls, last poll I saw had us 10 points ahead of Donald Trump, because the American people understand that Trump is a phony, that Trump is a pathological liar and a racist, and that he lied to the American people during his campaign. He said he was going to stand up for working families. Well, President Trump, you're not standing up for working families when you try to throw 32 million people off the health care that they have, and that 83% of your tax benefits go to the top 1%. That's how we beat Trump. We expose him for the fraud that he is.
I disagree with both their perspectives. The debate we're having in our party right now is confusing because the truth is there's a big difference between capitalism on the one hand and greed on the other. And so all the things that we're trying to change is when companies care more about profits when they do about people. So if you're talking about ending gun violence, it's the greed of the NRA and the gun manufacturers that make any progress impossible. It's the greed of the insurance companies and the drug companies when we want to try to get health care as a right and not a privilege. So there need not be disagreement in the party because, in truth, we want healthy capitalism.
Thank you.
We don't want corrupted capitalism.
Thank you. I want to be fair to all the candidates. Thank you. Senator Bennett, you have said, quote, it's possible to write policy proposals that have no basis in reality. You might as well call them candy. Were you referring to any candidate or proposal in particular when you said that?
Was that directed to me?
Yes, that was your quote.
That sounded like me. Thank you.
It was you.
I appreciate it. Well, look, first of all, I agree completely with Bernie about what the fundamental challenge we're facing as a country is. 40 years of no economic growth for 90% of the American people. 160,000 families in the top 0.1% have the same wealth as the bottom 90%, and we've got the worst income inequality that we've had in 100 years. Where I disagree is on his solution on Medicare for all. You know, I have proposed getting to universal health care, which we need to do. It is a right. Health care is a right. We need to get to universal health care. I believe the way to do that is by finishing the work we started with Obamacare and creating a public option that every family and every person in America can make a choice for their family about whether they want a public option, which for them would be like having Medicare for all, or whether they want to keep their private insurance. I believe we will get there much more quickly if we do that.
But wait,
Bernie, if I could just finish, Bernie mentioned that the taxes that we would have to pay, because of those taxes, Vermont rejected Medicare for all.
Senator,
and we should have
in Bernie's bill,
Senator We are going to talk about health care at length, Senator, but for the moment, my colleague Jose wants to continue the question.
I wrote the part in Senator Sanders' bill. I wrote the part in Senator Sanders' bill that is the transition, which merges what the two senators said. Because the truth is, if you have a buy-in over a 4 or 5 year period, you move us to single payer more quickly.
Senator, we will get to this. We will get to this. Before we do, I want to say hello and good evening, buenas noches to Mayor Buttigieg.
Buenas noches, gracias de invitarnos.
Gusto en verlo, caballero. Many of your colleagues on stage support free college. You do not. Why not?
Sure. So college affordability is personal for us. Chasten and I have 6-figure student debt. I believe in reducing student debt. It's logical to me that if you can refinance your house, you ought to be able to refinance your student debt. I also believe in free college for low and middle income students for whom cost could be a barrier. I just don't believe it makes sense to ask working class families to subsidize even the children of billionaires. I think the children of the wealthiest Americans can pay at least a little bit of tuition. And while I want tuition costs to go down, I don't think we can buy down every last penny for them. Now, there's something else that doesn't get talked about in the college affordability debate. Yes, it needs to be more affordable in this country to go to college. It also needs to be more affordable in this country to not go to college. You should be able to live well, afford rent, be generous to your church and Little League, whether you went to college or not. That's one of many reasons we need to raise the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour.
Jose, I've got $100,000 in student loan debt myself.
Let me get to you.
We can't count on the people who've been in government for the last 30 years who were around when this problem was created to be the ones to solve it. It's going to be the next generation.
Of Americans, you have to spend a lot of money for a mild value-add tax to eat up $12,000 a year per individual. So for the average family with 2 or 3 adults, it'd be $24,000 to $36,000 a year.
Okay, Congressman Swalwell, I want to talk a little bit about what Mr. Yang is talking about, and you just actually mentioned it. Many Americans are worried that things like self-driving cars, robots, drones, artificial intelligence will cost them their jobs. What would you do to help people get the skills they need to adapt to this new world?
We must always be a country where technology creates more jobs than it displaces. And I've seen the anxiety across America where the manufacturing floors go from 1,000 to 100 to 1. So we have to modernize our schools, value the teachers who prepare our kids, wipe the student debt from any teacher that goes into a community that needs it, invest in America's communities, especially where places where the best exports are people who move away to get skills. But Jose, I was 6 years old when a presidential candidate came to the California Democratic Convention and said, it's time to pass the torch to a new generation of Americans. That candidate was then Senator Joe Biden. Joe Biden was right when he said it was time to pass the torch to a new generation of Americans 32 years ago. He's still right today. If we're going to solve the issues of automation, pass the torch. If we're going to solve the issues of climate chaos, pass the torch. If we're going to solve the issue of student loan debt, pass the torch. If we're going to end gun violence for families who are fearful of sending their kids to school, pass the torch.
Vice President, would you like to sing a torch song?
I would. I'm still holding on to that torch. I want to make it clear to you, look, the fact of the matter is what we have to do is make sure that everybody is prepared better to go on to educate for an education. The fact is that that's why I propose us focusing on schools that are in distress. That's why I think we should triple the amount of money we spend for Title I schools. That's why I think we should have universal pre-K. That's why I think every single person who graduates from high school, 65 out of 100 now, need something beyond high school. And we should provide for them to be able to get that education. That's why there should be free community college, cutting in half the cost of college. That's why we should be in a position where we do not have anyone have to pay back a student debt when they get out. They're making less than $25,000 a year. Their debt is frozen, no interest payment until they get beyond that. We can't put people in a position where they aren't able to go on and move on. And so, folks, there's a lot we can do, but we have to make continuing education available for everyone so that everyone can compete in the 21st century. We're not doing that now.
Senator Sanders.
As the youngest guy on the stage, I feel like I probably ought to contribute to the generation.
As part of Joe's generation,
I'm all for
part of Joe's generation, let me respond.
Before we move on,
the issue, if I may say, is not generational.
Let's please.
Yeah. The
Senator
issue
Sanders,
is not generational. The issue is who has the guts to take on Wall Street, to take on the fossil fuel industry, to take on the big money interests who have unbelievable influence over the economic and political life of this country.
These issues
Senator Harris, I'm so sorry. We will let all of you speak. Senator Harris. Senator Harris. Please, we will let you all speak. Senator Harris.
We can't afford to wait for evolution on these issues.
Hey, guys, you know what? America does not want to witness a food fight. They want to know how we're going to put food on their table.
Yes.
Part of the issue that is at play in America today, and we've all been traveling around the country, I certainly have, I'm meeting people who are working 2 and 3 jobs. You know, this president walks around talking about and flouting his great economy, right? My great economy, my great economy. You ask him, well, how are you measuring this greatness of this economy of yours? And he talks about the stock market. Well, that's fine if you own stocks. So many families in America do not. You ask them, how are you measuring the greatness of this economy of yours? And they point to the jobless numbers and the unemployment numbers. Well, yeah, people in America are working. They're working 2 and 3 jobs. So when we talk about jobs, let's be really clear. In our America, no one should have to work more than 1 job to have a roof over their head and food on the table.
Thank you very much, Senator.
We've all expressed an interest in talking about health care. So let's talk about health care. And this is going to be a show of hands question. We asked a question about health care last night that spurred a lot of discussion, as you know. We're going to do it again now. Many people watching at home have health insurance of their employer. Who here would abolish their private health insurance in favor of a government-run plan? Yeah. All right. Senator Gillibrand.
Yeah, so no, it's my turn.
Go ahead.
So this is a very important issue. So the plan that Senator Sanders and I and others support, Medicare for All, is how you get to single payer. But it has a buy-in transition period, which is really important. In 2005, when I ran for Congress in a 2-to-1 Republican district, I actually ran on Medicare for All, and I won that 2-to-1 Republican district twice. And the way I formulated it was simple. Anyone who doesn't have access to insurance they like, they could buy in at a percentage of income they could afford. So that's what we put into the transition period for our Medicare for All plan. I believe we need to get to universal health care as a right and not a privilege to single payer. The quickest way you get there is you create competition with the insurers. God bless the insurers. If they want to compete, they can certainly try. But they've never put people over their profits, and I doubt they ever will. So what will happen is people will choose Medicare, you will transition, we will get to Medicare for All, and then your step to single payer is so short. I would make it an earned benefit, just like Social Security, so that you buy in your whole life. It is always there for you, and it's permanent, and it's universal.
Senator, your time is up. I want to put that same question to Mayor Buttigieg.
Yeah, we've taught, look, everybody who says Medicare for All, every person in politics who allows that phrase to escape their lips, has a responsibility to explain how you're actually supposed to get from here to there. Now, here's how I would do it. It's very similar. I would call it Medicare for all who want it. You take something like Medicare, a flavor of that, you make it available on the exchanges, people can buy in, and then if people like us are right, that will be not only a more inclusive plan, but a more efficient plan than any of the corporate answers out there, then it will be a very natural glide path to the single-payer environment. But let's remember, even in countries that have outright socialized medicine, like England, even there's still a private sector. That's fine. It's just that for our primary care, we can't be relying on the tender mercies of the corporate system. This one's very personal for me. I started out this year dealing with the terminal illness of my father. I make decisions for a living. And nothing could have prepared me for the kind of decisions our family faced. But the thing we had going for us was that we never had to make those decisions based on whether it was going to bankrupt our family because of Medicare. And I want every family to have that same freedom to do what is medically right, not live in financial fear.
Your time is complete. Vice President Biden, I want to put the question to you. You were one of the architects of Obamacare. So where do we go from here?
Well, look, this is very personal to me. When my wife and daughter were killed in an automobile accident, my 2 boys were really very badly injured. I couldn't imagine what it would be like had I not had adequate health care available immediately. And then when my son came home from Iraq after a year, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he was given months to live. I can't fathom what would have happened if, in fact, they said, by the way, the last 6 months of your life, you're on your own. We're cutting off. You've used up your time. The fact of the matter is that the quickest, fastest way to do it is build on Obamacare, to build on what we did. And secondly, to make sure that everyone does have an option. Everyone, whether they have private insurance, employer insurance, or no insurance, they, in fact, could buy in the exchange to a Medicare-like plan. And the way to do that, we can do it quickly. Look, urgency matters. There's people right now facing what I faced and what we faced without any of the help I had. We must move now. I'm against any Democrat who opposes, takes down Obamacare, and any Republican who wants to get rid of it.
Let me turn to Senator Sanders. Senator Sanders, you basically want to scrap the private health insurance system as we know it and replace it with a government-run plan. None of the states that have tried something like that, California, Vermont, New York, has struggled with it, have been successful. If politicians can't make it work in those states, how would you implement it on a national level? How does this work?
Listen, I find it hard to believe that every other major country on earth, including my neighbor 50 miles north of me, Canada, somehow has figured out a way to provide health care to every man, woman, and child, and in most cases, they're spending 50% per capita what we are spending. Let's be clear. Let us be very clear. The function of health care today, from the insurance and drug company perspective, is not to provide quality care to all in a cost-effective way. The function of the healthcare system today is to make billions in profits for the insurance companies. And last year, if you could believe it, while we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, and I will lower prescription drug prices in half in this country, top 10 companies made $69 billion in profit. They will spend hundreds of millions of dollars lying to the American people, telling us why we cannot have a Medicare for all single-payer program.
I just have to follow up there. How do you implement it on a national level? How do you implement it on a national level, given the fact it's not succeeded and other states have tried?
I will tell you how we'll do it. We'll do it the way real change has always taken place, whether it was the labor movement, the civil rights movement, or the women's movement. We will have Medicare for all, when tens of millions of people are prepared to stand up and tell the insurance companies and the drug companies that their day is gone, that health care is a human right, not something to make huge profits off.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Williamson. Ms. Williamson, this is a question for you. Excuse me, I'm addressing the question, Ms. Williamson. We've been talking a lot about access to health insurance, but for many Americans, their most pressing concern is the high cost of health care. How would you lower the cost of prescription drugs?
Well, first of all, the government should never have made the deal with the big pharma that they couldn't negotiate. That was just part of the regular corruption by which multinational corporations have their way with us. You know, I want to say that while I agree with, I'm with Senator Bennett and others, but I agree with almost everything here. I'll tell you one thing. It's really nice that we've got all these plans, but if you think we're going to beat Donald Trump by just having all these plans, you got another thing coming. Because he didn't win by saying he had a plan. He won by simply saying, make America great again. We've got to get deeper than just these superficial fixes, as important as they are. Even if we're just talking about the superficial fixes, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have a health care system in the United States. We have a sickness care system in the United States. We just wait till somebody gets sick, and then we talk about who's going to pay for the treatment and how they're going to be treated. What we need to talk about is why so many Americans have unnecessary chronic illnesses, so many more compared to other countries. And that gets back into not just the big pharma, not just health insurance companies. It has to do with chemical policies. It has to do with environmental policies. It has to do with food policies. It has to do with drug policies.
Thank you.
It has to do with environmental
Senator
policies.
Bennett, a question for you. You want to keep the system that we have in place with Obamacare and build on it. You mentioned that a moment ago. Is that enough to get us to universal coverage?
I believe that will get us the quickest way there. And I thought the Vice President was very moving about this, and Mayor Pete as well. I had prostate cancer recently, as you may know, and it's why I was a little late getting in the race. The same week, my kid had her appendectomy out. And I feel very strongly that families ought to be able to have this choice. I think that's what the American people want. I believe it will get us there quickly. There are millions of people in America that do not have health insurance today because they can't, they're too wealthy. They make too much money to be on Medicaid. They can't afford health insurance. When Senator Sanders says that Canada is single payer, there are 35 million people in Canada. There are 330 million people in the United States, easily the number of people on a public option. It could easily be 35 million. And for them, it would be Medicare for all, as Mayor Buttigieg says. But for others that want to keep it, they should be able to keep it. And I think that will be the fastest way to get where we need to go. Also, I will say, Bernie is a very honest person. He has said over and over again, unlike others that have supported this legislation, over and over again, that this will ban, make illegal, all insurance except cosmetic, except insurance for, I guess that's for plastic surgery. Everything else is banned under the Medicare for All proposal that he has put forward. I'd let you go
a little longer there, but obviously, Senator Sanders, you get a response. Senator Sanders, you
just very briefly. You know, Mike, Medicare is the most popular health insurance program in the country. People don't like their private insurance companies. They like their doctors and hospitals. Under our plan, people go to any doctor they want, any hospital they want. We will substantially lower the cost of health care in this country because we'll stop the greed of the insurance companies.
On this issue, we have to think about how this affects real people.
And the reality of how this affects real people is captured in a story that many of us heard, and I will paraphrase. There is, any night in America, a parent who's seeing that their child has a temperature that is out of control, calls 911, what should I do? And they say, take the child to the emergency room. And so they get in their car, and they drive, and they're sitting in the parking lot outside of the emergency room, looking at those sliding glass doors while they have the hand on the forehead of their child, knowing that if they walk through those sliding glass doors, even though they have insurance, they will be out a $5,000 deductible when they walk through those doors. That's what insurance companies are doing in America today.
We're going to continue this discussion. I want us to put it in a myth about candidates, please.
I'm one of those parents. I was just in the emergency room, and I'm telling
Congressman, thank you.
We fight health insurance companies every single week. We stand in line and pay expensive prescription drugs. We have to have a health care guarantee. If you're sick, you're seen, and in America, you never go broke because of it.
Okay. A lot of you have been talking tonight about these government health care plans that you've proposed in one form or another. This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment so people can see. Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants. With you, Mayor Buttigieg, why? Mayor Buttigieg, why?
Because our country is healthier when everybody is healthier. And remember, we're talking about something people are given a chance to buy into. In the same way that there are undocumented immigrants in my community who they pay sales taxes, they pay property taxes directly or indirectly. This is not about a handout. This is an insurance program. And we do ourselves no favors by having 11 million undocumented people in our country be unable to access health care. But, of course, the real problem is we shouldn't have 11 million undocumented people with no pathway to citizenship. It makes no sense. And the American people agree on what to do. This is the crazy thing. If leadership consists of forming a consensus around a divisive issue, this White House has divided us around a consensus issue. The American people want a pathway to citizenship. They want protections for dreamers. We need to clean up the lawful immigration system, like how my father immigrated to this country. And as part of a compromise, we can do whatever common sense measures are needed at the border. But Washington can't deliver on something the American people want. What does that tell you about the system we're living in? It tells you it needs profound structural reform.
Vice President Biden, I believe you said that your health care plan would not cover undocumented immigrants. Could you explain your position?
I'm sorry, I beg your pardon.
I believe at the show of hands you did not raise your hand. Did you raise your hand?
No, I did.
Sorry. So you said they would be covered under your plan, which is different than Obamacare.
Yes, but here's the thing.
Can you explain that change?
Yes. You cannot let, as the mayor said, you cannot let people who are sick, no matter where they come from, no matter what their status, go uncovered. You can't do that. It's just going to be taken care of, period. You have to. It's a humane thing to do. But here's the deal. The deal is that he's right about three things. Number one, they, in fact, contribute to the well-being of the country, but they also, for example, they've increased the lifespan of Social Security because they have a job, they're paying a Social Security tax. That's what they're doing. It's increased the lifespan. They would do the same thing in terms of reducing the overall cost of health care by them being able to be treated and not wait till they're in extremis. The other thing is, folks, look, we can deal with these insurance companies. We can deal with the insurance companies by, number one, putting insurance executives in jail for their misleading advertising, what they're doing on opioids, what they're doing paying doctors to prescribe. We could be doing this by making sure everyone who is on Medicare, that the government should be able to negotiate the price for whatever the drug costs are. We can do this by making sure that we're in a position that we, in fact, allow people. Time's up.
I just want to address that point.
Actually, if you can hold off a minute, we need to take a short break here. We got a lot more we need to talk to all of you about, so stick with us. We're just getting started. We'll be back with more from Miami right after this.
We're reporters from the New York Times. This melting pot of impacted species everywhere is going to get touched by climate change.
How to organize receipts.
When I got my DNA results, it opened up so many doors. It's a lifelong adventure, finding all of these new connections all the time.
New features, greater details, richer stories. Get your DNA kit today at Ancestry.com.
Huntsville is the Rocket City. We have so many new career tech programs like advanced manufacturing and engineering right in our high school. I'd always kind of wanted to be a doctor. When I discovered biomedical engineering, I was like, well, that's the perfect combination of medical and engineering. Siemens software lets me create anything that I could dream of. I want to be on the forefront of medical innovation and do the things that are impossible. If I can design this now, I can't wait to see what I will design in the future.
If it's cutting through the rhetoric to what really matters, if it's examining what kind of state our union is in, then welcome to Sunday. It's Meet the Press.
The most watched Sunday public affairs program in the nation.
Welcome back from Miami. Jose is going to lead off the questioning in this round.
Thank you very much. Senator Harris, last month, more than 130,000 migrants were apprehended at the southern border. Many of them are being detained, including small children, in private detention centers in Florida and throughout our country. Most of the candidates on this stage say the conditions at these facilities are abhorrent. On January 20th, 2021, if you are president, what specifically would you do with the thousands of people who try to reach the United States every day and want a better life through asylum?
Immediately on January 20th of 2021, I will, first of all, we cannot forget our DACA recipients, and so I'm going to start there. I will immediately, by executive action, reinstate DACA status and DACA protection to those young people. I will further extend protection for deferral of deportation for their parents and for veterans, who we have so many who are undocumented and have served our country and fought for our democracy. I will also immediately put in place a meaningful process for reviewing the cases for asylum. I will release children from cages. I will get rid of the private detention centers. And I will ensure that this microphone that the President of the United States holds in her hand is used in a way that is about reflecting the values of our country and not about locking children up, separating them from their parents. And I have to just say that we have to think about this issue in terms of real people. A mother who pays a coyote to transport her child through their country of origin, through the entire country of Mexico, facing unknown peril to come here. Why would that mother do that? I will tell you. Because she has decided for that child to remain where they are is worse. But what does Donald Trump do? He says, go back to where you came from. That is not reflective of our America and our values, and it's got to end.
Governor Hickenlooper, day one, if you are day one at the White House, how do you respond?
Deal with these children?
Let me get to you in just a second.
I'm sorry.
Governor, day one, thousands of men, women, and children cross the border asking for asylum for a better life. What do you do? Day one, hour one.
Well, certainly the images we've seen this week just compound the emotional impact that the world is judging us by. If you'd ever told me any time in my life that this country would sanction federal agents to take children from the arms of their parents, put them in cages, actually put them up for adoption, in Colorado we call that kidnapping, I would have told you it was unbelievable. And the first thing we have to do is recognize the humanitarian crisis on the border for what it is. We make sure that there are the sufficient facilities in place so that women and children are not separated from their families, the children are with their families. We have to make sure that ICE is completely reformed and they begin looking at their job in a humanitarian way where they're addressing the whole needs of the people that they are engaged with along the border. And we have to make sure ultimately that we provide not just shelter, but food, clothing, and access to medical care.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes, what Donald Trump has done to these children, and it's not just in Colorado, Governor, you're right, it is kidnapping, and it's extremely important for us to realize that. If you forcibly take a child from their parents' arms, you are kidnapping them. And if you take a lot of children and you put them in a detainment center, thus inflicting chronic trauma upon them, that's called child abuse. This is collective child abuse. And when this is crime, both of those things are a crime. And if your government does it, that doesn't make it less of a crime. These are state-sponsored crimes.
Congressman.
And what President Trump has done is not only attack these children, not only demonize these immigrants, he is attacking a basic principle of America's moral core. We open our hearts to the stranger. This is extremely important. And it's also important for all of us to remember, and I have great respect for everyone who is on this stage, but we're going to talk about what to do about health care. Well, where have you been, guys? Because if it's not just a matter of a plan, and I haven't heard anybody on this stage who has talked about American foreign policy in Latin America and how we might have, in the last few decades, contributed to something being more.
Senator Gillibrand, what would you do as president with a reality?
Well, one of the worst things about President Trump that he's done to this country is he's torn apart the moral fabric of who we are. When he started separating children at the border from their parents, the fact that 7 children have died in his custody, the fact that dozens of children have been separated from their parents and they have no plan to reunite them. So I would do a few things. First, I would fight for comprehensive immigration reform with a pathway to citizenship. Second, I would reform how we treat asylum seekers at the border. I would have a community-based treatment center where you're doing it within the communities, where asylum seekers are given lawyers, where there's real immigration judges, not employees of the Attorney General, but appointed for life, and have a community-based system. I would fund border security, but the worst thing President Trump has done is he's diverted the funds away from cross-border terrorism, cross-border human trafficking, drug trafficking, and gun trafficking, and he's given that money to the for-profit prisons. I would not be spending money in for-profit prisons to lock up children and asylum seekers.
We had a very spirited debate on this stage last night on the topic of decriminalization of the border. If you'd be so kind, raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross the border without documentation. Can we keep the hands up so we could see them?
And let's remember, that's not just a theoretical exercise. That criminalization, that is the basis for family separation. You do away with that, it's no longer possible. Of course, it wouldn't be possible anyway in my presidency because it is dead wrong. We've got to talk about one other thing, because the Republican Party likes to cloak itself in the language of religion. Now, our party doesn't talk about that as much, largely for a very good reason, which was we are committed to the separation of church and state, and we stand for people of any religion and people of no religion. But we should call out hypocrisy when we see it. And for a party that associates itself with Christianity, to say that it is okay to suggest that God would smile on the division of families at the hands of federal agents, that God would condone putting children in cages, has lost all claim to ever use religious language again.
Vice President, Mr. Vice President, I don't know if you raised your hand or were just asking to speak. Look, would you decriminalize crossing the border without documents?
The first thing I would do is unite families. I'd surge immediately billions of dollars worth of help to the region immediately. Look, I talk about foreign policy. I'm the guy that got a bipartisan agreement at the very end of the campaign, at the very end of our term, to spend $740 million to deal with the problem. And that was to go to the root cause of why people are leaving in the first place. It was working. We saw, as you know, a net decrease in the number of children who were coming. The crisis was abated. And along came this president. He said he immediately discontinued that. We all talk about these things. I did it. I did it. $740 million. Now look, second thing we have to do. The law now requires the reuniting of those families. We would reunite those families, period. And if not, we put those children in a circumstance where they were safe until we could find their parents. And lastly, the idea that he's in court with his Justice Department saying children in cages do not need a bed, do not need a blanket, do not need a toothbrush. That is outrageous.
Vice President, the Obama-Biden administration was... The Obama-Biden administration deported more than 3 million Americans. My question to you is, if an individual is living in the United States of America without documents and that is his only offense, should that person be deported?
No.
Depending if they committed a major crime. They should be deported. And the president was left in his... President Obama, I think, did a heck of a job. To compare him to what this guy's doing is absolutely, I find, close to immoral. But the fact is that, look, we should not be locking people up. We should be making sure we change the circumstance, as we did, why they would leave in the first place. And those who come seeking asylum, we should immediately have the capacity to absorb them, keep them safe until they can be heard.
A 15-second, if you could, if you wish to answer. Should someone who is here without documents, and that is his only offense, should that person be deported?
That person should not be the focus of deportation. We should fundamentally change the way we deal with things.
Senator,
I want to suggest that I agree with a lot of what Kamala just said. And that is, on day one, we take out our executive order pen and we rescind every damn thing on this issue that Trump has done. Number two, picking up on the point that Joe made, we got to look at the root causes. And you have a situation where Honduras, among other things, is a failing state, massive corruption. You got gangs who are telling families that if a 10-year-old does not join that gang, that family is going to be killed. What we have got to do on day one is invite the presidents and the leadership of Central America and Mexico together. This is a hemispheric problem that we have got to address.
Congressman Swalwell, what do you do?
Day one?
No. If someone is here without documents, and that is their only offense, is that person to be deported?
No. That person can be a part of this great American experience. That person can contribute. My congressional district is one of the most diverse in America, and we see the benefits when people contribute and they become a part of the community and they're not in the shadow economy. Day one for me, families are reunited. This president, though, for immigrants, there's nothing he will not do to separate a family, cage a child, or erase their existence by weaponizing the census. And there is nothing that we cannot do in the courts and that I will not do as president to reverse that and to make sure that families always belong together.
Senator Harris.
Well, thank you. I will say, no, absolutely not. They should not be deported. And I actually, this was one of the very few issues with which I disagreed with the administration, with whom I otherwise had a great relationship and a great deal of respect. But on the secure communities issue, I was Attorney General of California. I led the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice, in a state of 40 million people. And on this issue, I disagreed with my president, because the policy was to allow deportation of people who, by ICE's own definition, were non-criminals. So as Attorney General and the Chief Law Officer of the state of California, I issued a directive to the sheriffs of my state that they did not have to comply with detainers and instead should make decisions based on the best interest of public safety of their community. Because what I saw, and I was tracking it every day, I was tracking it and saw that parents, people who had not committed a crime, even by ICE's own definition, were being deported. But I have to add a point here. The problem with this kind of policy, and I know it as a prosecutor, Senator, I want a rape victim to be able to run in the middle of the street and wave down a police officer and report the crime against her. I want anybody who has been the victim of any real crime to be able to do that and not be afraid that if they do that, they will be deported, because the abuser will tell them it is they who is the criminal. It is wrong. It is wrong.
We're going to turn to the issue of trade now, if we can. Last night, we asked the candidates on this stage to name the greatest geopolitical threat facing the U.S. 4 of them mention China. U.S. businesses say China steals our intellectual property, and party leaders on both sides accuse China of manipulating their currency to keep the cost of goods artificially low. I'll ask this to Senator Bennett to start off with. How would you stand up to China?
I think that, first of all, the biggest threat to our national security right now is Russia, not China. And second, on China, we've got competition because of what they've done with our elections. In China, I think the president's been right to push back on China, but has done it in completely the wrong way. We should mobilize the entire rest of the world, who all have a shared interest in pushing back on China's mercantilist trade policies, and I think we can do that. I'd like to answer the other question before this as well.
You have the time.
When I see these kids at the border, I see my mom because I know she sees herself, because she was separated from her parents for years during the Holocaust in Poland. And for Donald Trump to be doing what he's doing to children and their families at the borders, I say this as somebody who wrote the immigration bill in 2013 that created a pathway to citizenship for 11 million people in this country, that had the most progressive DREAM Act that's ever been conceived, much less passed. It got 68 votes in the Senate. That had $46 billion of border security in it, that was sophisticated 21st century border security, not a medieval wall. And the president has turned the border of the United States into a symbol of nativist hostility that the whole world is looking at, when what we should be represented by is the Statue of Liberty, which has brought my parents to this country to begin with. We need to make a change.
Mr. Yang, let me bring you in on this, on the issue of China. You've expressed a lot of concerns about technology and taking jobs. Are you worried about China? And if so, how would you stand up against it?
Well, I just want to agree that I think Russia is our greatest geopolitical threat, because they've been hacking our democracy successfully, and they've been laughing their asses off about it for the last couple of years. So we should focus on that before we start worrying about other threats. Now, China, they do pirate our intellectual property. It's a massive problem. But the tariffs and the trade war are just punishing businesses and producers and workers on both sides. I met with a farmer in Iowa who said he spent 6 years building up a buying relationship in China that's now disappeared and gone forever. And the beneficiaries have not been American workers or people in China. It's been Southeast Asia and other producers that have then stepped into the void. So we need to crack down on Chinese malfeasance in the trade relationship, but the tariffs and the trade war are the wrong way to go.
All right, Mayor Buttigieg, how would you stand up against China?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we've got to recognize that the China challenge really is a serious one. This is not something to dismiss or wave away. And if you look at what China is doing, they're using technology for the perfection of dictatorship. But their fundamental economic model isn't going to change because of some tariffs. I live in the industrial Midwest. Folks who aren't in the shadow of a factory are somewhere near a soy field where I live. And manufacturers, and especially soy farmers, are hurting. Tariffs are taxes. And Americans are going to pay on average $800 more a year because of these tariffs. Meanwhile, China is investing so that they could soon be able to run circles around us in artificial intelligence. And this president is fixated on the China relationship as if all that mattered was the export balance on dishwashers. We've got a much bigger issue on our hands. But at a moment when their authoritarian model is being held up as an alternative to ours because ours looks so chaotic compared to theirs right now because of our internal divisions, the biggest thing we've got to do is invest in our own domestic competitiveness. If we disinvest in our own infrastructure, education, we are never going to be able to compete. And if we really want to be an alternative, a democratic alternative, we actually have to demonstrate that we care about democratic values at home and around the world.
We've got a good debate so far. We're going to take a quick break here, candidates. When we come back, the questioning continues with our colleagues. Chuck Todd, Rachel Maddow will be here. Much more with our candidates straight ahead.
When I got my DNA results, it opened up so many doors. It's a lifelong adventure, finding all of these new connections all the time.
New features, greater details, richer stories. Get your DNA kit today at Ancestry.com.
From Holland, Michigan. We're pretty high-tech. Thanks to our heated sidewalks, we can clomp and dance down the streets year-round. Best city in the world.
No. Pittsburgh's the best. You like skyscrapers? You can thank us and our steel. You can also thank us for making the country greener with these LEED certified buildings. I mean, who else can say that?
We can. We have everything right here in Brooklyn. We even make our own electricity and the whole block shares it. They don't do that in Manhattan.
From energy to infrastructure, Siemens Digital Technology is giving cities even more to be proud of.
Danny, you're not doing anything.
That's the point. It does it for you. That's literally the point of the ad.
I run Fox News. Anyone outside is the enemy.
What's Roger like?
He's a bully. I'm a multifaceted
man. We're reporters from the New York Times. This melting pot of impacted species everywhere is going to get touched by climate change.
It's tough to quit smoking cold turkey. So Chantix can help you quit slow turkey. Along with support, Chantix is proven to help you quit. With Chantix, you can keep smoking at first and ease into quitting. Chantix reduces the urge, so when the day arrives, you'll be more ready to kiss cigarettes goodbye. When you try to quit smoking, with or without Chantix, you may have nicotine withdrawal symptoms. Stop Chantix and get help right away if you have changes in behavior or thinking, aggression, hostility, depressed mood, suicidal thoughts or actions, seizures, new or worse heart or blood vessel problems, sleepwalking, or life-threatening allergic and skin reactions. Decrease alcohol use. Use caution driving or operating machinery. Tell your doctor if you've had mental health problems. The most common side effect is nausea. Quit smoking. Slow turkey. Talk to your doctor about Chantix.
Through the AT&T network, edge-to-edge intelligence gives you the power to see every corner of your growing business. From finding out what's selling best, to managing your fleet. To collaborating remotely with your teams, giving you a nice big edge over your competition. That's the power of edge-to-edge intelligence.
All eyes on the 2020 election. Follow the latest on the candidates with the NBC News mobile app. Stay connected with breaking news, top stories, live video, and your favorite NBC News shows. Text NBC News to 66866 to get the app.
Welcome back to the Democratic presidential debate from the Arch Center in Miami.
As we continue the questioning, we want to bring in more members of our team.
So let's turn it over to Chuck Todd and Rachel Maddow.
Well, Rachel, I had a dream that we've done this before.
No. This is definitely
didn't happen.
the first time.
Definitely first time. Thank you, Lester, Savannah, and Jose. Let's quickly recap the rules one more time. 20 candidates qualified for this first debate. We've heard from 10 of them from last night. We're hearing from 10 more tonight. Breakdown for each night was selected at random. Candidates will have 60 seconds to answer direct questions, 30 seconds for follow-ups, if necessary.
Because of this large field of candidates, not every person will be able to comment on everything, but the less audience reaction there is, the more time they will all get. Over the course of the next hour, we will hear from all of these candidates, but we are going to begin this hour with Mayor Buttigieg. In the last 5 years, civil rights activists in our country have led a national debate over race and the criminal justice system. Your community of South Bend, Indiana, has recently been in uproar over an officer-involved shooting. The police force in South Bend is now 6% black in a city that is 26% black. Why has that not improved over your 2 terms as mayor?
Because I couldn't get it done. My community is in anguish right now because of an officer-involved shooting. A black man, Eric Logan, killed by a white officer. And I'm not allowed to take sides until the investigation comes back. The officer said he was attacked with a knife, but he didn't have his body camera on. It's a mess, and we're hurting. And I could walk you through all of the things that we have done as a community, all of the steps that we took from bias training to de-escalation, but it didn't save the life of Eric Logan. And when I look into his mother's eyes, I have to face the fact that nothing that I say will bring him back. This is an issue that is facing our community and so many communities around the country. And until we move policing out from the shadow of systemic racism, whatever this particular incident teaches us, we will be left with the bigger problem of the fact that there's a wall of mistrust put up one racist act at a time, not just from what's happened in the past, but from what's happening around the country in the present. It threatens the well-being of every community. And I am determined to bring about a day when a white person driving a vehicle and a black person driving a vehicle, when they see a police officer approaching, feels the exact same thing, a feeling not of fear, but of safety. I am determined to bring that day about.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
If I could ask one question, just because I think...
Governor, I'll give you 30 seconds.
I think that the question they're asking in South Bend, I think in cities across the country, is why has it taken so long? We had a shooting when I first became mayor 10 years before Ferguson, and the community came together and we created an Office of the Independent Monitor, a Civilian Oversight Commission. We diversified the police force in 2 years. We actually did de-escalation training. I think the real question that America should be asking is why 5 years after Ferguson, every city doesn't have this level of police accountability.
Governor Hickenlooper, thank you.
I've got to respond to that. Look, we've taken so many steps toward police accountability that the FOP just denounced me for too much accountability. We're obviously not there yet. And I accept responsibility for that because I'm in charge.
Policy, you should fire the chief.
So under Indiana law, this will be investigated, and there will be accountability for the officer involved.
But you're the mayor. You should fire the chief if that's the policy and someone died.
All of these issues are extremely important, but there are specifics, there are symptoms, and the underlying cause has to do with deep, deep, deep realms of racial injustice, both in our criminal justice system and in our economic system. And the Democratic Party should be on the side of reparations for slavery for this very reason. I do not believe that the average American is a racist, but the average American is woefully undereducated about the history of race in the United States.
Ms. Williamson, thank you very much.
Vice President Biden, we're going to get to you. Hang on, we're going to get to
stage. I would like to speak on the issue of race.
Senator Harris,
What I will say is that
if I could preface this, we will give you 30 seconds
agree.
because we're going to come back to you on this again in just a moment. Go for 30 seconds.
Okay. So, on the issue of race, I couldn't agree more that this is an issue that is still not being talked about truthfully and honestly. There is not a black man I know, be he a relative, a friend, or a coworker, who has not been the subject of some form of profiling or discrimination. Growing up, my sister and I had to deal with the neighbor who told us her parents couldn't play with us because we were black. And I will say also that in this campaign, we've also heard, and I'm going to now direct this at Vice President Biden, I do not believe you are a racist. And I agree with you when you commit yourself to the importance of finding common ground. But I also believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing. And, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me. So I will tell you that on this subject, it cannot be an intellectual debate among Democrats. We have to take it seriously. We have to act swiftly. As Attorney General of California, I was very proud to put in place a requirement that all my special agents would wear body cameras and keep those cameras on.
Senator Harris, thank you. Vice President Biden, you have been invoked. We are going to give you a chance to respond. Vice President Biden.
It's a mischaracterization of my position across the board. I did not praise racist. That is not true, number one. Number two, if we want to have this campaign litigated on who supports civil rights and whether I did or not, I'm happy to do that. I was a public defender. I didn't become a prosecutor. I came out and I left a good law firm to become a public defender when in fact my city was in flames because of the assassination of Dr. King. Number one. Now, number two, as the Vice President of the United States, I work with a man who, in fact, we worked very hard to see to it we dealt with these issues in a major, major way. The fact is that in terms of busing, the busing, you would have been able to go to school the same exact way because it was a local decision made by your city council. That's fine. That's one of the things I argued for, that we should be breaking down these lines. But so the bottom line here is, look, everything I've done in my career, I ran because of civil rights. I continue to think we have to make fundamental changes in civil rights. And those civil rights, by the way, include not just only African Americans, but the LGBT community.
But Vice President Biden, do you agree today that you were wrong to oppose busing in America then?
No.
Do you agree?
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I opposed.
Well, there was a failure of states to integrate public schools in America. I was part of the second class to integrate Berkeley, California public schools almost 2 decades after Brown v. Board of Education.
Because your city council made that decision. It was a local decision.
So that's where the federal government must step in. That's why we have the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. That's why we need to pass the Equality Act. That's why we need to pass the ERA, because there are moments in history where states fail to preserve the civil rights of all people.
I have supported the ERA from the very beginning when I ran
Vice President Biden, 30 seconds, because I want to bring other people into this.
I supported the ERA from the very beginning. I'm the guy that extended the Voting Rights Act for 25 years. We got to the place where we got 98 out of 98 votes in the United States Senate doing it. I've also argued very strongly that we, in fact, deal with the notion of denying people access to the ballot box. I agree that everybody, once they, in fact, they should. Anyway, my time's up. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Vice President.
All of these things have
Senator
to do.
Sanders, Senator Sanders, I'm going to go to you on this. You said on the day you launched your campaign that voters should focus on what people stand for, not a candidate's race or age or sexual orientation. Many Democrats are very excited by the diversity of this field, on this stage and on last night's stage, and the perspective that diversity brings to this contest and to these issues. Are you telling Democratic voters that diversity shouldn't matter when they make this decision?
No, absolutely not. Unlike the Republican Party, we encourage diversity. We believe in diversity. That's what America is about. But in addition to diversity, in terms of having more women, more people from the LGBT community, we also have to do something else. And that is, we have to ask ourselves a simple question. And that, how come today the worker in the middle of our economy is making no more money than he or she made 45 years ago, and that in the last 30 years, the top 1% has seen a $21 trillion increase in their wealth? We need a party that is diverse, but we need a party that has the guts to stand up to the powerful special interests who have so much power over the economic and political life of this country.
Senator Gillibrand, I want to give you 30 seconds on this.
Well, first of all, where Bernie left off, we've heard a lot of good ideas on this stage tonight and a lot of plans. But the truth is, until you go to the root of the corruption, the money in politics, the fact that Washington is run by the special interests, you are never going to solve any of these problems. I have the most comprehensive approach that experts agree is the most transformative plan to actually take on political corruption, to get money out of politics through publicly funded elections, to have clean elections. If we do that and get money out of politics, we can guarantee health care as a right, not a privilege. We can deal with institutional racism. We can take on income inequality. And we can take on the corporate corruption that runs Washington.
And the first constitutional amendment to do that was introduced by me when I was a young senator.
Thank you, Vice President. We want to shift topics here. Senator Bennett, the next question is for you. On the issue of partisan gridlock, President Obama promised in 2012 that after his re-election, Republicans would want to work with Democrats. Fever would break. That did not happen. Now Vice President Biden is saying the same thing, that if he is elected in 2020, both parties will want to work together. Should voters believe that somehow if there's a Democratic president in 2021, that gridlock is going to magically disappear?
Gridlock will not magically disappear as long as Mitch McConnell is there, first. Second, that's why it is so important for us to win not just the presidency, to have somebody that can run in all 50 states, but to win the Senate as well. And that's why we have to propose policies that can be supported, like Medicare Act, so that we can build a broad coalition of Americans to overcome broken Washington, D.C. I agree with what Senator Gillibrand was saying. I share a lot of her views. We need to end gerrymandering in Washington. We need to end political gerrymandering in Washington. The court today said they couldn't do anything about it. We need to overturn Citizens United. The court was the one that gave us Citizens United, and the attack on voting rights in Shelby versus Holder is something we need to deal with. All of those things has happened since Vice President Biden was in the Senate. And we face structural problems that we have to overcome with a broad coalition. It's the only way we can do it. We need to root out the corruption in Washington, expand people's right to get to the polls, and I think then we can succeed.
Vice President Biden, 30 seconds. It does sound as if you haven't seen what's been happening in the United States Senate over the last 12 years. It didn't happen. Why?
I have seen what happened just since we were vice president. We needed 3 votes to pass an $800 billion recovery act that kept us from going into depression. I got 3 votes changed. We needed to be able to keep the government from shutting down and going bankrupt. I got Mitch McConnell to raise taxes $600 billion by raising the top rate. And as recently as after President got elected, I was able to put together a coalition of the Cures Act that billions of dollars go into cancer research, bipartisan. But sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you just have to go out and beat them. I went into 20 states, over 60 candidates, and guess what? We beat them. We won back the Senate.
Thank you.
Chuck,
Thank you,
the problem with what the Vice President...
Yeah, 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Sometimes you do have to beat him, but the deal that he talked about with Mitch McConnell was a complete victory for the Tea Party. It extended the Bush tax cuts permanently. The Democratic Party had been running against that for 10 years. We lost that economic argument because that deal extended almost all those Bush tax cuts permanently and put in place the mindless cuts that we still are dealing with today that are called the sequester. That was a great deal for Mitch McConnell. It was a terrible deal for America.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator Bennett. Go ahead, 30 seconds.
The reason why the Trump tax cut had to be passed is because they had to pay back their donors. You heard it. They actually said those words. So the corruption in Washington is real, and it is something that makes every one of the plans we've heard about over the last several months impossible. And I have the most comprehensive approach to do it with clean elections, publicly funded elections. So we restore the power of our democracy into the hands of the voters, not into the Koch brothers. We were talking about issues. Imagine, we're in Florida, imagine the Parkland kids having as much power in our democracy as the Koch brothers or the NRA. Imagine their voices carrying farther and wider than anyone else because their voice is needed.
Senator Gillibrand, I'm trying to get everybody in here.
As President, it's the first thing I'm going to do because nothing else is possible, whether it's education or health care or ending institutional racism.
Thank you very much.
Senator Sanders, I'd like to put a different question to you. Roe versus Wade has been the law of the land since 1973. Now that there is a conservative majority on the Supreme Court, several Republican-controlled states have passed laws to severely restrict or even ban abortion. One of those laws could very well make it to the Supreme Court during your presidency, if you're elected president. What is your plan if Roe is struck down in the court while you're president?
Well, my plan is somebody who believes, for a start, that a woman's right to control her own body is a constitutional right, that government and politicians should not infringe on that right. We will do everything we can to defend our Roe versus Wade. Second of all, let me make a promise here. You ask about litmus test. My litmus test is I will never nominate any justice to the Supreme Court unless that justice is 100% clear he or she will defend Roe v. Wade. Third of all, I do not believe in packing the court. We got a terrible 5-4 majority conservative court right now. But I do believe that constitutionally we have the power to rotate judges to other courts. And that brings in new blood into the Supreme Court and a majority, I hope, that will understand that a woman has the right to control her own body and that corporations cannot run the United States of America.
Hold on, I'm going to give you 10 additional seconds because the question is, what if the court has already overturned Roe and Roe is gone? All of the things you just described would be to try to preserve Roe. If Roe is gone, what could you do as president to preserve abortion rights?
Well, first of all, let me tell you this. It didn't come up here, but let's face this. Medicare for all guarantees every woman in this country the right to have an abortion if she wants it.
Thank you, Senator.
And can I just address this for a second? And I want to talk directly to America's women and to the men who love them. Women's reproductive rights are under assault by President Trump and the Republican Party. 30 states are trying to overturn Roe v. Wade right now. And it is mind-boggling to me that we are debating this on this stage in 2019 among Democrats, whether women should have access to reproductive rights. I think we have to stop playing defense and start playing offense. But let me tell you one thing about politics, because it goes to the corruption and the deal-making. When the door is closed and the negotiations are made, There are conversations about women's rights, and compromises have been made on our backs. That's how we got to Hyde. That's how the Hyde Amendment was created, a compromise by leaders of both parties. Then we have the ACA. During the ACA negotiation, I had to fight like heck with other women to make sure that contraception wasn't sold down the river or abortion services. And so what we need to know is, imagine this one question. When we beat President Trump and Mitch McConnell walks into the Oval Office, God forbid, to do negotiations, who do you want, when that door closes, to be sitting behind that desk to fight for women's rights? I have been the fiercest advocate for women's reproductive freedom for over a decade. And I promise you, as president, when that door closes, I will guarantee women's reproductive freedom no matter what.
Thank you. We're moving to climate. We're moving to climate, guys. Senator Harris, I'm addressing you first on this. You live in a state that has been hit by drought, wildfires, flooding. Climate change is a major concern for voters in your state. It's pretty obvious. Obviously, this state as well. Last night, voters heard many of the candidates weigh in on their proposals. Explain specifically what yours is.
Well, first of all, I don't even call it climate change. It's a climate crisis. It represents an existential threat to us as a species. And the fact that we have a president of the United States who has embraced science fiction over science fact will be to our collective peril. I visited, while the embers were smoldering, the wildfires in California. I spoke with firefighters who were in the midst of fighting a fire while their own homes were burning. And on this issue, it is a critical issue that is about what we must do to confront what is immediate and before us right now. That is why I support a Green New Deal. It is why I believe on day one, and as president, will re-enter us in the Paris Agreement, because we have to take these issues seriously. And frankly, we have a president of the United States. We talked about, you asked before, what is the greatest national security threat to the United States? It's Donald Trump. And I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I agree, climate change represents an existential threat. He denies the science. You want to talk about North Korea, real threat in terms of nuclear arsenal, but what does he do? He embraces Kim Jong-un, a dictator, for the sake of a photo op. Putin, you want to talk about
Senator
Russia?
Harris, we're going to
he takes the word of the Russian president over the word of the American intelligence community when it comes to a threat to our democracy and our elections.
Thank you, Senator Harris.
These are the issues that are before us, Chuck.
I hear you. Thank you, Senator Harris. Mayor Buttigieg, in your climate plan, if you're elected president in your first term, how is this going to help farmers impacted by climate change in the Midwest?
Well, the reality is we need to begin adapting right away, but we also can't skip a beat on preventing climate change from getting even worse. It's why we need aggressive and ambitious measures. It's why we need to do a carbon tax and dividend. But I would propose we do it in a way that is rebated out to the American people in a progressive fashion so that most Americans are made more than whole. This isn't theoretical for us in South Bend either. Parts of California on fire. Right here in Florida, they're talking about sea level rise. Well, in Indiana, I had to activate the Emergency Operations Center of our city twice in less than 2 years. The first time was a 1,000-year flood, and the next time was a 500-year flood. This is not just happening on the Arctic ice caps. This is happening in the middle of the country, and we've got to be dramatically more aggressive moving forward. Now, here's what very few people talk about. First of all, rural America can be part of the solution instead of being told they're part of the problem. With the right kind of soil management and other kind of investments, rural America could be a huge part of how we get this done. And secondly, we've got to look to the leadership of local communities. You know, those networks of mayors and cities from around the world who have come together, not even waiting for our national governments to catch up. We should have a Pittsburgh summit where we bring them together as well as rejoining the Paris.
Thank you, Mayor Buttigieg.
I want to bring Governor Hickenlooper into this for a moment. Governor, you have said that oil and gas companies should be a part of the solution on climate change. Lots of your colleagues on stage tonight have talked about moving away from fossil fuels entirely. Can oil and gas companies be real partners in this fight?
Well, I share the sense of urgency. I'm a scientist, so I recognize that we're within 10 or 12 years of actually, suffering irreversible damage. But guaranteeing everybody a government job is not going to get us there. So, socialism, and in that sense, is not the solution. We have to look at
what really will make a difference. In Colorado, we're closing a couple of coal plants, replacing them with wind, solar, and batteries, and the monthly bills go down. We're building a network for electric vehicles. We are working with the oil and gas industry, and we created the first methane regulations in the country. Methane is 25 times worse than CO2. And then we've got to get to that last part. I mean, the industrial, heavy industry, we haven't seen the plans yet. If you look at the real problem, CO2, the worst polluters in CO2 is China, is the United States, and then it's concrete and its exhalation. And beyond that, I think we've got to recognize that only by bringing people together, businesses, nonprofits, and we can't demonize every business. We've got to bring them together to be part of this thing, because ultimately, if we're not able to do that, we will be doomed to failure. We have no way of doing this without bringing everyone together.
Thank you. Vice President Biden, on the issue of how you do this, Democrats are arguing robustly among themselves about what's the best way to tackle climate change. But if we're honest, many Republicans, including the president, are still not sure if they believe it is even a serious problem. So, are there significant ways you can cut carbon emissions if you have to do it with no support from Congress?
The answer is yes. Number one, in our administration, we built the largest wind farm in the world, the largest solar energy facility in the world. We drove down the competitive price of both of those renewable sources. I would immediately insist that we, in fact, build 500,000 recharging stations throughout the United States of America, working with governors, mayors, and others, so that we can go to a full electric vehicle future by the year 2020, or by the year 2030. I would make sure that we invested $400 million in new science and technology to be the exporter not only of the green economy, but economy that can create millions of jobs. But I would immediately join the Paris Climate Accord. I would up the ante in that accord, which it calls for, because we make up 15% of the problem. 85% of the world makes up the rest. And so we have to have someone who knows how to corral the rest of the world, bring them together, and get something done like we did in our administration.
Senator Sanders, I want to give you 30 seconds to follow up, and I'm going to hold you to 30.
Look, the old ways are no longer relevant. The scientists tell us we have 12 years before there is irreparable damage to this planet. This is a global issue. What the President of the United States should do is not deny the reality of climate change, but tell the rest of the world.
For everyone watching right now, go ahead and just make sure that you're leaving a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and everyone, thank you for watching this, and I'll go ahead and get you back to it.
System away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. The future of the planet rests on us doing that.
Before we go, hang on.
Before we leave this topic.
Here's the solution. Pass the torch. Pass the torch to the generation that's going to feel the effects of climate change. Pass the torch to the generation that's inventive enough.
Before we leave this topic, here's something you all want to weigh in on. Hold one moment. Hold one moment.
Just trust us on this.
Somebody has a younger body doesn't mean you don't have old ideas.
No, we need new ideas.
John Kennedy did not say, I have a plan to get a man to the moon, and so we're going to do it, and I think we can all work together, and maybe we can get a man on the moon. John Kennedy said, by the end of this decade, we are going to put a man on the moon. Because John Kennedy was back in the day when politics included the people, and included imagination, and included great dreams, and included great plans. And I have had a career not making the political plans, but I have had a career harnessing the inspiration and the motivation and the excitement of people, masses of people, when we know that when we say we are going to turn from a dirty economy to a clean economy, we're going to have a Green New Deal. We're going to create millions of jobs. We're going to do this within the next 12 years because I'm not interested in just winning the next election. We are interested in our grandchildren.
All right, we're going to sneak in a break in a minute, but before we go, I'm going to go down the line here, and I'm asking you, please, for 1 or 2 words only. All right? Please.
Really?
President Obama in his first year wanted to address both health care and climate. And he could only get one signature issue accomplished. It was, obviously, health care. He didn't get to do climate change. You may only get one shot, and your first issue that you're going to push, you get one shot that it may be the only thing you get passed. What is that first issue for your presidency? Eric Swalwell, you're first.
For Parkland, for Orlando, for every community affected by gun violence, ending gun violence.
Senator Bennett.
Climate change and the lack of economic mobility Bernie talks about.
Senator Gillibrand.
Passing a family bill of rights that includes a national paid leave plan, universal pre-K, affordable daycare, and making sure that women and families can thrive in the workplace no matter who they are.
Oh, I like that.
was pretty good. Senator Harris.
Then. So passing a middle class and working families tax cut,
That's one.
DACA, guns.
Oh, I'm giving you credit for the first thing you said, the tax cut. I got you. Senator Sanders, first thing.
The premise that there's only one or two issues out there. This
I'm not saying there isn't one or two.
Enormous crises.
Senator Sanders.
We need a political revolution. People have got to stand up and take on the special interest. We can transform this country.
Fine. Vice President Biden, your first issue, Mr. Vice President.
I think you're so underestimating what Barack Obama did. He's the first man to bring together the entire world, 196 nations, to commit to deal with climate change immediately. So I don't buy that. But the first thing I would do is make sure that we defeat Donald Trump.
Okay.
Period.
Mayor Buttigieg, your first priority, your first issue as president that you were going to block and tackle.
We've got to fix our democracy before it's too late. Get that right. Climate, immigration, taxes, and every other issue gets better.
Mr. Gang.
I would pass a $1,000 freedom dividend for every American adult starting at age 18, which would speed us up on climate change, because if you get the boot off of people's throats, they'll focus on climate change much more clearly.
Governor Hickenlooper?
I would do a collaborative approach to climate change, and I would pronounce it well before the election to make sure we don't re-elect the worst president in American history.
And Ms. Williamson with the last
word. My first call is to Prime Minister of New Zealand, who said that her goal is to make New Zealand the place where it's the best place in the world for a child to grow up. And I will tell her girlfriend you are so on, because the United States of America is going to be the best place in the world for a child to grow up.
Ms. Williamson, thank you. You guys were close with the short, at least it was shorter responses.
Not at all.
All right. C-.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with these candidates right after this.
Danny, you're not doing anything.
That's the point. It does it for you. That's literally the point of the ad.
Huntsville is the Rocket City. We have so many new career tech programs like advanced manufacturing and engineering right in our high school. I'd always kind of wanted to be a doctor. When I discovered biomedical engineering, I was like, well, that's the perfect combination of medical and engineering. Siemens software lets me create anything that I could dream of. I want to be on the forefront of medical innovation and do the things that are impossible. If I can design this now, I can't wait to see what I will design in the future.
We're reporters from the New York Times. This melting pot of impacted species everywhere is going to get touched by climate change.
It's amazing what you can uncover with your DNA results from Ancestry. I was able to discover one cousin, reached out to him, visited Ireland, met another 20 cousins. They took me to the Cliffs of Moher, the ancestral home, the family bar. It really gives you a sense of connection to something that's bigger than yourself.
New features, greater details, richer stories. Get your DNA kit today at Ancestry.com.
I run Fox News. Anyone outside is the enemy.
What's Roger like?
He's a bully. I'm a multifaceted
man. This is the couple who wanted to get away, who used Expedia to book the vacation rental that led to the ride, which took them to the place where they discovered that sometimes a little downtime can lift you right up. Flights, hotels, cars, activities, vacation rentals. Expedia, everything you need to go.
It's tough to quit smoking cold turkey. So Chantix can help you quit slow turkey. Along with support, Chantix is proven to help you quit. With Chantix, you can keep smoking at first and ease into quitting. Chantix reduces the urge, so when the day arrives, you'll be more ready to kiss cigarettes goodbye. When you try to quit smoking, with or without Chantix, you may have nicotine withdrawal symptoms. Stop Chantix and get help right away if you have changes in behavior or thinking, aggression, hostility, depressed mood, suicidal thoughts or actions, seizures, new or worse heart or blood vessel problems, sleepwalking, or life-threatening allergic and skin reactions. Decrease alcohol use. Use caution driving or operating machinery. Tell your doctor if you've had mental health problems. The most common side effect is nausea. Quit smoking slow turkey. Talk to your doctor about Chantix.
Good evening, everyone. Breaking news tonight.
Lester Holt.
It sounds like a jet airplane up there, but that is fire. Let's talk about the MAX. How do you convince a skittish passenger to get on this airplane? We've met a lot of great people.
The most trusted TV news anchor in America.
That's Nightly News. I'm Lester Holt.
Welcome back to the Democratic candidates debate in Miami. We're going to continue the questioning now with Lester in the audience. We are in a second are going to have a question from Lester in the audience, but that was just a fake out.
Let's go. We're going to go to the issue of guns and
Congressman Swalwell. Among this field of candidates, you have a unique position on gun reform. You're proposing that the government should buy back every assault weapon in America, and it should be mandatory. How do you envision that working, especially in states where gun rights are a strong flashpoint?
Keep your pistols, keep your rifles, keep your shotguns, but we can take the most dangerous weapons from the most dangerous people. We have the NRA on the ropes because of the moms, because of the Brady Group, because of Giffords, because of March for Our Lives. But I'm the only candidate on this stage calling for a ban and buyback of every single assault weapon in America. I've seen the plans of the other candidates here. They would all leave 15 million assault weapons in our communities. They wouldn't do a single thing to save a single life in Parkland. I'll approach this issue as a prosecutor. I'll approach it as the only person on this stage who has voted and passed background checks, but also as a parent of a generation who sends our children to school where we look at what they're wearing so we can remember it in case we have to identify them later. A generation who has seen thousands of black children killed in our streets, and a generation who goes to the theater and we actually look where the fire exits are. We don't have to live this way. We must be a country who loves our children more than we love our guns.
Senator Sanders, a Vermont newspaper recently released portions of an interview you gave in 2013 in which you said, quote, "My own view on guns is everything being equal, states should make those decisions."
No.
Has your thinking changed since then? Do you now think there's a federal role to play?
That's a mischaracterization of my thinking.
It's a
Look,
quote of
we
you.
have a gun crisis right now. 40,000 people a year are getting killed. In 1988, Rachel, when it wasn't popular, I ran on a platform of banning assault weapons and, in fact, lost that race for Congress. I have a D- voting record from the NRA. And I believe that what we need is comprehensive gun legislation that, among other things, provides universal background. We end the gun show loophole. We end the straw man provision. And I believed in 1988, and I believe today.
Why would you
that
leave
assault weapons are weapons from the military, and that they should not be on the streets of America.
Your plan leaves them on the streets. You leave 15 million on the streets.
We banned the sale and distribution, and that's what I believe for many years.
Will you buy them back?
If people want to buy, if the government wants to do that, and people want to
You're going to be the government.
Yes.
Will you buy them back?
Yes.
Senator Harris, we're going to give you 30 seconds.
Thank you. I think your idea is a great one, Congressman Swalwell, and I will say that there are a lot of great ideas. The problem is Congress has not had the courage to act, which is why when elected President of the United States, I will give the United States Congress 100 days to pull their act together, bring all these good ideas together, and put a bill on my desk for signature. And if they do not, I will take executive action, and I will put in place the most comprehensive background check policy we've had. I will require the ATF to take the licenses of gun dealers who violate the law, and I will ban by executive order the importation of assault weapons. Because I'm going to tell you, as a prosecutor, I have seen more autopsy photographs than I care to tell you. I have hugged more mothers who are the mothers of homicide victims, and I have attended more police officer funerals. It is enough. It is enough. There have been plenty of good ideas from members of the United States Congress. There's been no action. As president, I will take action.
Mayor Buttigieg, I want to bring you in on this, sir. A lot of discussion about assault rifles that are often shorthanded as military-style weapons. You are the only person on this stage tonight with military experience as a veteran of the Afghanistan war. Will military families, does that inform your thinking on this view? Do you believe that military families or America's veterans will, at large, have a different take on this than the other Americans who we've been talking about and who Congressman Swalwell is appealing to with his buyback program?
Yeah, of course, because we trained on some of these kinds of weapons. Look, every part of my life experience informs this. Being the mayor of a city where the worst part of the job is dealing with violence, we lose as many as were lost at Parkland every 2 or 3 years in my city alone. And this is tearing communities apart. If more guns made us safer, we'd be the safest country on earth. It doesn't work that way. And common sense measures like universal background checks can't seem to get delivered by Washington, even when most Republicans, let alone most Americans, agree it's the right thing to do. And as somebody who trained on weapons of war, I can tell you that there are weapons that have absolutely no place in American cities or neighborhoods in peacetime, ever.
Vice President Biden, 30 seconds.
A real 30 seconds?
A real 30 seconds.
Okay. I'm the only person that's beaten the NRA nationally. I'm the guy that got the Brady bill passed, the background checks, number one. Number two, we increased that background check during the Obama-Biden administration. I'm also the only guy that got assault weapons banned, and the number of clips in a gun banned. And so, folks, look, and I would buy back those weapons. We already started talking about that. We tried to get it done. I think it can be done, and it should be demanded that we do it, and that's a good expenditure of money. And lastly, we should have smart guns. No gun should be able to be sold unless your biometric measure could pull that trigger. It's within our right to do that. We can do that. Our enemy is the gun manufacturers, not the NRA. The gun manufacturer.
Vice President,
but the NRA is taking orders from the gun manufacturer.
Lester Holt has our next question. Lester, take it away.
All right, Chuck. This is a question from our viewers. We put some suggestions that asked maybe they could share some. Here's one that came from Kathleen from Canby, Oregon, who writes, many fear the current administration has inflicted irrevocable harm on our governing institutions and norms, and in the process, on our reputation abroad. The question is, what do you see as important early steps in reversing the damage done? And we'll put this one to Senator Bennett.
Thank you very much. What an excellent question. First of all, we have to restore our democracy at home. The rest of the world is looking for us for leadership. We have a president who doesn't believe in the rule of law. He doesn't believe in freedom of the press. He doesn't believe in independent judiciary. He believes in the corruption that he's brought to Washington, D.C., and that is what we have to change, and that's why everybody is up here tonight, and I appreciate the fact that they're up here for that reason. Second, we've got to restore the relationships that he's destroyed with our allies, not just in Europe. He flew to the G20 last night and attacked Japan, Germany, and a third ally of ours without saying anything about North Korea or Russia. And when you've got a situation where you have a president who says something happened in the Straits of Hormuz and the whole world doesn't know whether to believe it or not, that is a huge problem when it comes to the national security of the United States of America.
This is a perfect time.
Need to change that.
Thank you, Senator Bennett. It's a perfect time for me to do another one of these down the line. And this is what this question is, which is you're likely going to have to reset a relationship between America and another country or entity if you become president perhaps because of some relationship that you just mentioned about President Trump. What is the first relationship you like to reset as president? Go down the line, and I'll start with Ms. Williamson.
Well, one of my first phone calls would be to call the European leaders and say, we're back. Because I totally understand how important it is that the United States be part of the Western Alliance.
I'm trying to get one or two words here. I hear you. Governor Hickenlooper.
You know, I talk about constant engagement, and I think the first country I would go to, but I understand they've been cheating and stealing intellectual property, would be China, because if we're going to deal with public health pandemics, if we're going to deal with all the challenges of the globe, we've got to have relationships with everyone.
Mr. Yang, we're trying to squeeze in a couple more things before we go to another break. Mr. Yang.
China, we need to cooperate with them on climate change, AI, and other issues. North Korea.
Thanks for the quickness. Mayor Buttigieg.
We have no idea which of our most important allies he will have pissed off worse between now and then. What we know is that our relationship with the entire world needs to change. And it starts by modeling American values at home.
Okay, Mr. Vice President, I'm trying to be quick.
We know NATO will fall apart if he's elected 4 more years. It's the single most consequential alliance in the history of the United States.
Senator Sanders.
It's not one country. I think it is rebuilding trust in the United Nations and understand that we can solve conflicts without war, but with diplomacy.
Senator Harris.
All the members of the NATO alliance.
Senator Gillibrand.
President Trump is hell-bent on starting a war with Iran. My first act will be to engage Iran to stabilize the Middle East and make sure we do not start an unwanted, never-ending war.
Senator Bennett, quickly.
Our European allies in every Latin American country that's willing to have a conversation about how to deal with the refugee crisis.
And Congressman Swalwell.
My first act in foreign policy, we're breaking up with Russia and making up with NATO.
Thank you all. Thank you all. We have one
That's a good plan.
last question for Vice President Biden tonight. You have made your decades of experience in foreign policy a pillar of your campaign. But when the time came to say yes or no on one of the most consequential foreign policy decisions of the last century, you voted for the Iraq war. You have since said you regret that vote. But why should voters trust your judgment when it comes to making a decision about taking the country to war the next time?
Because once Bush abused that power, what happened was we got elected after that. I made sure the president turned to me and said, Joe, get our combat troops out of Iraq. I was responsible for getting 150,000 combat troops out of Iraq, and my son was one of them. I also think we should not have combat troops in Afghanistan. It's long overdue. It should end. And thirdly, I believe that you're not going to find anybody who has pulled together more of alliances to deal with what is the real stateless threat out there. We cannot go it alone in terms of dealing with terrorism. So I'd eliminate the act that allowed us to go into war and not the AUMF, and make sure that it could only be used for what its intent was, and that is to go after terrorists, but never do it alone. That's why we have to repair our alliances. We put together 65 countries to make sure we dealt with ISIS in Iraq and other places. That's what I would do. That's what I have done, and I know how to do it.
Senator Sanders, 30 seconds.
One of the differences that Joe and I have in our record is Joe voted for that war. I helped lead the opposition to that war, which is a total disaster. Second of all, I helped lead the effort for the first time to utilize the War Powers Act to get the United States out of the Saudi-led intervention in Yemen, which is the most horrific humanitarian disaster on earth. And thirdly, let me be very clear, I will do everything I can to prevent a war with Iran, which would be far worse than disastrous war with Iraq.
Senator Sanders, thank you.
All right, guys.
Informed consent of the American people.
Good news is you get more time to talk, but I have to sneak in one more break. We will be right back with more debate.
It's amazing what you can uncover with your DNA results from Ancestry. I was able to discover one cousin, reached out to him, visited Ireland, met another 20 cousins. They took me to the Cliffs of Moher, the ancestral home, the family bar. It really gives you a sense of connection to something that's bigger than yourself.
New features, greater details, richer stories. Get your DNA kit today at Ancestry.com.
Huntsville is the Rocket City. We have so many new career tech programs like advanced manufacturing and engineering right in our high school. I'd always kind of wanted to be a doctor. When I discovered biomedical engineering, I was like, well, that's the perfect combination of medical and engineering. Siemens software lets me create anything that I could dream of. I want to be on the forefront of medical innovation and do the things that are impossible. If I can design this now, I can't wait to see what I will design in the future.
I run Fox News. Anyone outside is the enemy.
We need to reclaim this country for the real Americans.
Gretchen?
Roger. I'm broadening my audience.
Well, I hired you because you're a beauty queen.
He's a bully.
I will do anything to protect my people. I'm a multifaceted man.
We're reporters from the New York Times. This melting pot of impacted species everywhere is going to get touched by climate change.
Alarming surge in the measles outbreak. Number one myth is autism.
Yes.
And there's no link to vaccination.
Absolutely not.
Do we know if they've been able to save anything?
We are all waiting to see.
Still smell the smoke here.
Candidate will have a final chance to make their case to the voters. 45 seconds each. We begin with Congressman Swalwell.
We can't be a forward-looking party if we look to the past for our leadership. I'm a congressman, but also a father of a 2-year-old and an infant. When I'm not changing diapers, I'm changing Washington. Most of the time, the diapers smell better. I went to Congress at 31, and I found a Washington that doesn't work for people like you and me. It's made of the rich and the disconnected. I was the first in my family to go to college and have student loan debt. And so I have led the effort to elect the next generation of members of Congress. And we have a moment to seize. This is a can-do generation. This is the generation that will end climate chaos. This is the generation that will solve student loan debt. And this is the generation that will say enough is enough and end gun violence. This generation demands bold solutions. That's why I'm running for president.
Congressman, thank you.
Ms. Williamson, 45 seconds for your closing
I'm sorry we haven't talked more tonight about how we're going to beat Donald Trump. I have an idea about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not going to be beaten just by insider politics talk. He's not going to be beaten just by somebody who has plans. He's going to be beaten by somebody who has an idea what this man has done. This man has reached into the psyche of the American people, and he has harnessed fear for political purposes. So, Mr. President, if you're listening, I want you to hear me, please. You have harnessed fear for political purposes, and only love can cast that out. So sir, I have a feeling you know what you're doing. I'm going to harness love for political purposes. I will meet you on that field, and, sir, love will win.
Ms. Williamson, thank you.
Senator Bennett. Thank you. Thank you. My mom and her parents came to the United States to rebuild their shattered lives.
Just a reminder, Chiefs, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and make sure to stay after the debate for a post-debate analysis of Backstar and Caitlin.
The ability for one generation to do better than the next is now severely at risk in the United States, especially among children living in poverty like the ones I used to work for in the Denver public schools. That's why I'm running for president. I've had 2 tough races in Colorado. By bringing people together, not by making empty promises. And I believe we need to build a broad coalition of Americans to beat Donald Trump, end the corruption in Washington, and build a new era of American democracy and American opportunity. This is going to be hard to do, but it's what our parents would have expected. It's what our kids deserve. I hope you'll join me in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Governor Hickenlooper.
I'm a small business owner who brought that same scrappy spirit to make Colorado one of the most progressive states in America. We expanded reproductive health to to reduce teenage abortion by 64%. We were the first state to legalize marijuana, and we transformed our justice system in the process. We passed universal background checks in a purple state. We got to near universal health care coverage. We attacked climate change with the toughest methane regulations in the country, and for the last 3 years, we've been the #1 economy in America. You don't need big government to do big things. I know that because I'm the one person up here who's actually done the big progressive things everyone else is talking about. If we turn towards socialism, we run the risk of helping to re-elect the worst president in American history.
Thank you, Governor.
Senator Gillibrand, you have the floor for 45 seconds.
Women in America are on fire. We've marched, we've organized, we've run for office, and we've won. But our rights are under attack like never before by President Trump and the Republicans who want to repeal Roe v. Wade, which is why I went to the front lines in Georgia to fight for them. As president, I will take on the fights that no one else will. I stood up to the Pentagon and repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I've stood up to the banks and voted against the bailout twice. I've stood up to Trump more than any other senator in the U.S. Senate. And I have the most comprehensive approach for getting money out of politics with publicly funded elections to deal with political corruption. Now is not the time to play it safe. Now is not the time to be afraid of firsts. We need a president who will take on the big challenges, even if she stands alone. Join me in fighting for this.
Senator Gillibrand, thank you.
Mr. Yang, you have 45 seconds for your closing.
First, I want to thank everyone who put me on this stage tonight. I am proof that our democracy still works. Democrats and Americans around the country have one question for their nominee, and that is who can beat Donald Trump in 2020? That is the right question. And the right candidate to beat Donald Trump will be solving the problems that got Donald Trump elected and will have a vision of a trickle-up economy that is already drawing thousands of disaffected Trump voters, conservatives, independents, and libertarians, as well as Democrats and progressives. I am that candidate. I can build a much broader coalition to beat Donald Trump. It is not left. It is not right. It is forward. And that is where I'll take the country in 2020.
Mr. Yang, thank you.
Senator Harris, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, I just want to leave you with a couple of things. One, we need a nominee who has the ability to prosecute the case against 4 more years of Donald Trump, and I will do that. Second, this election is about you. This is about your hopes and your dreams and your fears and what wakes you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And that's why I have what I call a 3 a.m. agenda. That is about everything from what we need to do to deliver health care to how you will be able to pay the bills by the end of the month. And when I think about what our country needs, I promise you I will be a president who leads with a sense of dignity, with honesty, speaking the truth, and giving the American family all that they need to get through the end of the month in a way that allows them to prosper. So I hope to earn your support. Please join us at KamalaHarris.org.
Senator, thank you.
Mayor Buttigieg, 45 seconds.
Nothing about politics is theoretical for me. I've had the experience of writing a letter to my family, putting it in an envelope marked just in case, and leaving it where they would know where to find it in case I didn't come back from Afghanistan. I have the experience of being in a marriage that exists by the grace of a single vote on the U.S. Supreme Court. I have the experience of guiding a community where the per capita income was below $20,000 when I took office into a brighter future. I'm running because the decisions we make in the next 3 or 4 years are going to decide how the next 30 or 40 go. And when I get to the current age of the current president in the year 2055, I want to be able to look back on these years and say my generation delivered climate solutions, racial equality, and an end to endless war. Help me deliver that new generation to Washington before it's too late.
Thank you.
Senator Sanders, 45 seconds, the floor is yours.
I suspect people all over the country who are watching this debate are saying, these are good people, they have great ideas. But how come nothing really changes? How come for the last 45 years wages have been stagnant for the middle class? How come we have the highest rate of childhood poverty? How come 45 million people still have student debt? How come 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of America? And here is the answer. Nothing will change unless we have the guts to take on Wall Street, the insurance industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the military-industrial complex, and the fossil fuel industry. If we don't have the guts to take them on, we'll continue to have plans, we'll continue to have talk, and the rich will get richer, and everybody else will be struggling.
Thank you, Senator.
And lastly, we'll hear from Vice President Biden. Sir, you have 45 seconds.
Thank you very much. I'm going to lead this country because I think it's important we restore the soul of this nation. This president has ripped it out. It's the only president in our history who has equated racist and white supremacists with ordinary and decent people. He's the only president who has engaged and embraced dictators and thumbed their nose at our allies. I'm secondly running for president because I think we have to restore the backbone of America, the poor and hardworking middle-class people. You can't do that without replacing them with the dignity they once had. Lastly, we got to unite the United States of America as much as anybody says we can. If we do, there's not a single thing the American people can't do. This is the United States of America. We can do anything if we're together. So God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.
Vice President Biden, thank you.
We want to thank our candidates. We've had 2 nights of spirited debate on a range of issues, 20 candidates in all. We want to thank all of the candidates last night.
Seriously, it takes guts to run and stick your neck out like this to you guys and to the 10 last night. Thanks for having the guts to do this.
I would also like to thank the audience for completely ignoring our suggestion not to react. We made it a lot more fun.
Also, thanks to the Democratic National Committee and the Florida Democratic Party.
And, of course, thank you to everyone at the Adrian R. Center for hosting us here and our terrific audiences. Chuck mentioned.
Over terrific.
For Savannah, Jose, Chuck, and Rachel, I'm Lester Holt. Good night, everyone, from Miami.
Alright guys, that was the debate for the second night in a row. Thank you all so much for watching this video. This is actually the highest viewed video that or live stream that I have actually made. Right now on my phone I am seeing that 69 people are watching this live stream. And I am going to be joined by Backstar in just a moment, and my girlfriend is also here. Caitlin is also here joining me tonight, although she may not be saying anything, but we did watch it together, so maybe she will have a couple of words to say here and there. But I will be calling Backstar in just a moment so he can go ahead and give his words on it. And for those who want to join in, please let me know, and I'm actually going to be in my PoliticsGaming server for you guys to actually interject.
Debate tonight. Good evening, I'm Morgan Radford, and welcome back to our special coverage of the second night of the first Democratic debates of the 2020 election cycle right here on NBC News Now. There you have it, 2 nights, 20 candidates. The candidates are walking off the stage as we speak. Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg were in the front.
Hello.
The front runners coming into tonight, but there were also a number of people on stage who wanted.
Hey, Jack of Hearts, thank you so much for that donation, and even though it's only $2.01. I don't know how specific that was supposed to be, but thank you. But in any case, for those who are watching right now and those who are joining me tonight, what are your views on the debate right now? What do you guys actually think about what the candidates had said, and what are your views on certain topics that were discussed? Go ahead and let me know in the comments section, and let me know what's going on.
Joe Biden was right when he said it was time to pass the torch to a new generation of Americans 32 years ago. He's still right today.
Hey guys, you know what? America does not want to witness a food fight. They want to know how we're going to put food on their table.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
PG.
Alright, sorry about that. Can you all hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh man, it's actually my audio's acting pretty weird. There we go. Now I should be able to hear y'all.
Did you?
Yep.
Well, let's just go ahead and say I think that Pete Buttigieg did a damn good job on this date tonight. He didn't attack. He didn't go and talk about Trump this, Trump that too much. He was very specific with the answers to this question, to the question that was asked to him, and I think I'm not going to say someone's vaping over there. I'm not going to say
Someone's vaping on the stream.
I'm not going to say he won the debate, but I will say he did a damn good job. Biden did a good job. And then
All right, for those else that are actually joining me in the Discord right now, what are your thoughts?
bad. I've never heard that before. But yeah, it does get old.
It's just a way to like make fun of Democrats that all they talk about is how bad Trump is.
Well, see, if you look at what the Republicans did the same thing with Obama when he was president. They talked about how, in fact, you had the Republican leadership, Mitch McConnell and all of them said, we're going to do our best to stop Obama. We're not going to work with Obama. Then they criticized everything Obama said, Obamacare, the stimulus package. It goes, the shoe goes on, it goes both ways. Okay. When the Republicans are in power, the Democrats are going to do this. Okay. But what needs to happen when the Republicans are in I do agree with what Stanton said about Kamala Harris. But what needs to happen is just like when they were talking about healthcare, right? And how they do, everyone want to do Medicare for all and all that. My question is, how are we going to pay for it? Because if Bernie Sanders is talking about increasing, putting a tax on people, it may sound good on paper, but you're not going to win if you're talking about you're going to pay taxes. Okay. Now,
now on stances such as abortion and reparations and stuff like that, and I'm not specifically asking Backstar right now. People like AMN passed the boof. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, hold on. They didn't mention anything about reparations. Did I miss anything?
There was like one thing. It was that Williamson lady. She made one brief mention about reparations.
She's a joke anyway. She's like that crazy old woman with the damn cats all over the place. Like she ain't going up talking about something. I'm gonna defeat Trump with love. You go up there to Ohio and talk about that. They're gonna laugh your ass out the doggone building. Okay.
I think reparations is a bad idea.
Why do you say so?
Because it's like nobody this day and age has ever owned a slave, and nobody now has been a slave. And it feels, to me, it kind of feels like, I don't know, it's just not the right choice.
Well,
there's one thing that I've actually thought about.
hold on now. Let me say this right quick. Nobody that owned slaves were given reparations. Let me just say that right quick. And then you can go on PG and say what you need to say.
No, what I was thinking, what is the thought of instead of giving slave descendants reparations, do you think that people who suffered through Jim Crow, and I'm actually partially a supporter of this, do you think people who suffered through Jim Crow, who are still alive today, should they receive reparations? And a similar action was actually undertaken after during World War II. Basically, there was an executive order that was signed into law under President FDR that interned every person of Japanese origin, especially on the West Coast, and those people were relocated into these camps on the West Coast, and as deep as Arkansas is how deep into the country they went. So do you think people, and those people after the war were given reparations, I believe in the 1970s, because the Supreme Court ended up finding out that yes, it was very inhumane and there was no reason why that needed to happen. So for those of you who are watching right now, and for those who are on the Discord, do you think that should happen, for reparations to be given to people who suffered through Jim Crow, and well, not just internment camps, but the people who suffered through Jim Crow and up to the 1960s, who their families and stuff like that. I think you guys know what I'm saying.
Well, I just believe that. If you want to give, I'm not gonna take a yes or no stance on this issue. I'm gonna take a neutral stance. If you want to give African Americans, and not just African Americans, but Latino Americans and other minorities in this country, reparations for Jim Crow, then okay. If you don't, okay. But let me tell you who we should give reparations to. We should give reparations to the Native Americans in this country, because I believe that, and if you don't know this, then I don't know what you've been learning in history. Well, they don't teach this in history. But we robbed the Native Americans. We stole their land, we killed them, we forced them into slavery. Now, I think we need to do more for Native Americans and give them reparations now. I will be supportive of that.
But wouldn't the same stance be taken? Because basically it's kind of the same situation, that those Native Americans, that like taking their land and everything like that happened, again, hundreds of years ago. So why should we be giving reparations to them now?
For the reason that you just named. We took their land, forced them into slavery. But my whole thing is about, and also another reason is that we never really gave reparations to them. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but we never
did.
So that's why I support That's why I'm more supporting reparations to Native Americans than African Americans, because from my knowledge, I understand it may have been fucked up, but African Americans were given the whole 20 acres of land and a mule. Okay.
I don't think anyone was given a mule.
Well,
no, that policy never happened. That wasn't even aspired by the Johnson administration.
Well, either way, they were given some kind of reparations, from my knowledge.
No, they weren't.
If I'm wrong. African Americans not given reparations?
No. African Americans were never given reparations after slavery.
Not official. There were some people that received reparations whenever they did digging.
What do you mean?
There was this one family that said that there was this other family that owned their descendants, and they gave them reparations. It wasn't required by a federal institution.
I'll have to look into that.
Here's a
introducing Caitlin, everyone.
Here's an article from the New York Times. Article says America has tried reparations before. Here's how it went.
right? That's what makes it illegal. It could be a
But do indigenous people get like cut on like taxes and stuff like that where you guys are from? And like free tuition to universities and stuff?
I don't know about that. I have to look into that.
Because like that's a form of like reparations.
Now, I it seemed like in tonight's debate they really talked about health insurance, healthcare. Now PG knows my stance on healthcare. I support public option.
Think I need you to repeat it again. No, I'm just kidding.
I've always support public option. I will support public option plan because I believe it is a better alternative than Medicare for all.
I actually had a discussion about this during the debate. Are there any like major costs associated with public option, or is it usually just off of premiums that the government charges?
What do you mean cost?
Costs as in like managing the healthcare system.
Well, yeah, you're going to have a cost managing the healthcare system. Just like because all a public option is just the health. It's just the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington D.C. is running a healthcare plan, okay, a healthcare company. So you're going to have costs. You're going to have administrative costs. You're going to have other fees and stuff as a private health insurance.
Now, why? The thing is that why should? I actually had something to say, but then I completely forgot it.
I think I know what you're going to say.
I support universal health care.
Why?
I think you're trying to say, PG. Hold on, because I want to hear what you. I think you're trying to say, why should the government provide health care? Is that what you're trying to say, PG?
Yes.
Well, again, I think that we should help people. The government, federal government, should help people in need. Okay, because there are times where people are in need of assistance, and I think federal government should step in. Also, another reason why is because healthcare, every American, and I've always, and PG, you know this, every American citizen should have good quality, affordable healthcare. Okay.
Yes, but the government did not do a good job of providing such health care.
Get your mouth away from the mic. Stop eating it.
So how do you think?
Yeah, sorry.
Because,
my
well,
first
if you
time in a
want,
while.
if you want to get real here, the private insurance company's not doing a good job either. Because as Kamala said in the debate, I don't know if that her mother's story was true or she just made it up on the spot.
Oh,
but the deductible, you got to understand that these $5,000 deductible, I can't afford that, and I'm pretty sure. Can you not vape in the mic, please? And I'm pretty sure a lot of people
You need private health care if you keep vaping.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people in this. I'm pretty sure everyone in this channel right now could not afford a $5,000 deductible. I'm pretty sure the 27 people that are watching this stream right now, a lot of them may not be able to afford a $5,000 deductible.
Now, what I completely remembered what I was supposed to ask a minute ago. You're talking about a public option, but why should people really trust the government in managing healthcare? That's another one of the reasons why I don't support anything like public option or anything like that, is because the government managing anything is a really bad time. Look at the Veterans Affairs. Like,
There's so much red tape in Veterans Affairs, it's not even crazy. I understand that what I have to, when I deep
now what I was gonna say is Caitlin's grandfather, and I'm basically kind of, I know I've talked to you about this, but I'm kind of saying this to the chat as well. Caitlin's grandfather fought in Vietnam, and he received his health care from the Veterans Affairs. And from what she told me and what her mother told me and what her father told me, dealing with the Veterans Affairs was the worst thing they ever had to really deal with, is because the Veterans Affairs had no idea what they were doing. They had no real just management system, and it was just a really, really hard time.
It's hard to work with. The place is huge. Like,
Well,
I don't know. It was just
I think the problem with the Veterans Affairs is it's just a lot of red tape, and that is one of the cons of having anything ran by the federal government. But I know some veterans that don't have that stress of dealing with the VA. But so again, I mean, I can't say that a public option plan is going to be just this wonderful product, and it's just not going to have all. It's going to have red tape because it's the government.
I support public option a little bit more now, but I still think it's a bad option.
But it's a better option than no option, because from what I understand, the Republicans want to get rid of Obamacare, and their so-called replacement plan is going to leave more Americans uninsured. So there is no replacement. It's just repeal. Okay, and I've been saying this since 2017. PG, you know this because we talked about this when it happened. Okay, or 2018. Or was it? It was 2017. Excuse me. Now, the deal with the VA is you first need to find out what's going on administrative wise. Okay, whether you don't have people or it's just red tape, you figure out what the hell's going on and you fix it. Okay. Now, I mean, get more. I mean, it's just so much going on with the VA. You know, it's just a complex issue. But I think that we need public option healthcare. I think public option healthcare plan will be better than Medicare for all.
Uh-oh. Apparently they've detected copyrighted audio and video in your stream. Your stream may be temporarily blocked. Hell yeah.
Uh-oh. Well, stop live streaming the doggone NBC thing.
Yeah, the police will come for you, and they will.
They want their money. Hey, at least they got my $2.01 from my boy Jack of Hearts.
Now,
that's me. That's me.
No, thank you, dude.
You're welcome. Yeah, I bleated iPhone. Just joined your disc.
Yeah, it was. I'm really disappointed they didn't give a lot of those other people like opportunity to speak. Like, it was Williamson, Yang. my main man Yang Gang.
Stop.
Just, hey, you shut up.
Hey.
He's telling a woman to shut up. That's a true Republican out there.
Oh my God.
But you know, it's just when you have the two front runners, Biden and Sanders, on the same stage. I mean, I expected this from the start. That's why I did not like. Okay, whoever's vaping needs to stop.
That wasn't me. That wasn't me.
So so whoever's vaping, mute your mic or go to push to talk. But you know, I didn't like the way the Democrats set up the debate, because you cannot have 10 people on. The
setup of the debates is awful.
And I said this last night, and I'm going to say it again. You cannot say this is a debate when you are going to sit up here and the first thing you say is we are not going to be able to go to every candidate on every issue. That's not a debate. That's just bulljob. Now, instead of it being 2 nights, you have it 4 nights and have 4 candidates on the stage at once. That way you can get to everybody, or 5 candidates on the stage and you can get to everybody. Okay? That would have been a better option. And then you gotta also understand there's like 4 candidates that didn't even make the cut.
Who didn't make the cut?
the governor of Colorado. No, what's his name?
I was about to say, whatever that guy's name, he had a funny name, but he was on there.
Yeah, as a proud Oklahoman, I can say that Colorado is indeed the worst. If I had 3 nukes, I would spend all of them on Colorado twice.
Oh, hey, Swag Jacks, welcome to the live stream. I didn't notice you were here.
You have former Governor Steve Bullock, the dude from Wayne Mason from Florida, and some Congress rep.
Yeah, that was my favorite historical figure of all time. Historical congressman. His speeches are truly inspiring.
But it's just, and then the immigration talk is, it was all focused on they all focused on one half of illegal immigration, and there's another half of illegal immigration. You know what it is? It's called visas. People come here on a visa, okay, and just simply overstay the visa. That's what Kevin McCarthy, the House, if you don't know who Kevin McCarthy is, he is the House Minority Leader. That's what he said on illegal immigration. So they didn't talk, and then it's just, I want to know. You're sitting up here naming the issue. I know what the issue is. I don't need to hear the same issue from 10 people or 8 or however many people. I want to hear the solution. Okay, and their solution was crap, in my opinion. Because
my solution is that we give everyone a baseball bat, and whoever's left standing, we let them stay. That would be
that's another thing. What are y'all's opinions on Andrew Yang's proposal for a what was
UBI.
it? It was a UBI, but he actually, I didn't know this, but he was actually proposing for it to be paid for by VAT.
Okay,
first off, if he truly honestly believes that that a value added tax, okay. First off, you're talking about having a value added tax on top of sales tax.
I think he would get rid of the sales tax.
He cannot get rid of sales tax because sales tax is a state issue. From my understanding, I don't think he can do that. I'm not a constitutional expert here, but I don't think he can just ban sales tax. So him talking about VAT is no point. And he's trying to sell VAT like it's going to be a good thing for this country. I mean, yeah, produce revenue, but
Yang was actually the most formal and the most straightforward guy that I have ever seen in any presidential debate.
Pete was straightforward.
No, he wasn't. He was actually being the same way that like Kamala and Joe Biden were being.
On what issue?
On all of the issues that he was answering. Whenever there was like 3 moments in the debate where they basically asked all of the candidates, can you give a 1 or 2 word answer of what you're going to do in your first 100 days or something like that. And then, like, Joe Biden, all these other guys, I don't know what he's going to... You can go back in the debate and look what he wanted to say.
I'm pretty sure
but, like, basically he said... He doesn't know how to just make it short and sweet. Andrew Yang, he made it short and sweet every single time he's talked. That's why he didn't talk a lot.
But that doesn't mean he wasn't straightforward. If it's not like
no, he was straightforward. If you listen to what he said, he was straightforward.
But it's not like Sanders, who's sitting up here talking about, oh, we're going to do this about corporations, yada yada. It's all that. Because Sanders, in my opinion, was in campaign mode. He wasn't in debate mode. And I mean.
Hello?
Okay, yeah, I just couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay.
Hold on, let me mute my...
Are y'all hearing echoing?
No.
All right, just until the technical difficulties are solved here, guys. For those who are watching right now, all 25 people who are watching, and this is actually, again, the most watched live stream that I've actually ever seen. Comparing that to other people like Raptor and everything like that, it's kind of a minimal achievement. But In any case, for those who are watching right now, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, support me in any way that you can, just by subscribing actually helps me out. I just hit 2,300 subscribers on YouTube, and thank you all so much for the support that you guys have been giving me. So, I'm definitely in future debates and throughout the 2020 campaign. I'm definitely going to be doing more live streams like this, so go ahead and just again subscribe if you want to see more 2020 content as the 2020 election comes up.
Yeah, it's gonna be lit.
It's gonna be interesting.
Hell yeah, brother.
Who are you?
Okay, I don't see how
You need
I
to
don't
shut
see,
up.
I don't
Like-
see what you're saying. How Pete was not straightforward. Okay, you're talking about if the moderator asked him, "What do you want to do in your first 100 days as president?" and he answered,
What's going to be the concentration in your first 100 days? They said one word answer, and then Buttigieg just started saying, "Okay, I'm going to, I'm going to do all this other stuff."
But he answered the question.
No, he didn't.
I mean, what do you mean? If he got up here and said what his plans were, that's answering the question. I mean, it may have not been
Answering the question doesn't mean you have to answer the question. That making your answer last 5 minutes. That's not. You shouldn't answer it in that way.
His answer didn't last. I mean, so if he gave a sentence, okay, I don't see the harm in that. But if he actually answered the question and didn't sound like, oh well, I'm gonna like Sanders was talking about all this stuff about fossil fuel companies and yada yada. I understand that Andrew Yang may have answered the question in 1 or 2 words, but in my opinion, I believe Pete Buttigieg was just as straightforward as Andrew Yang.
Oh no, like Andrew Yang was way.
See, they didn't let Andrew Yang talk in the debate.
It's not Buttigieg. Buttigieg was not the one that was being like annoying as hell.
Are you talking? Oh yeah, you're talking about Gillibrand.
Yes.
Oh
she
yeah.
Did not shut up.
Like you have to understand.
Caitlyn
that
hated Gillibrand. She could not stand Gillibrand.
I have listened to Pete, and I've listened not just Pete, but I've listened to all these candidates. But I've listened to Pete the most because I support him, and he has been very straightforward. If you go and look at when he was talking about when he went to South Bend and go talk about the Black Lives Matter stuff. If you go watch it, he was in my opinion, he was really straightforward. He didn't try and spin anything. He told the people, "This is my plan, and I want you, and I would like your support." Now, if you want to talk about somebody who was not straightforward and did not answer the questions, it was Sanders. The very first, I think, one of the very first topics in the debate was talking about healthcare, and Lester Holt asked him, are you going to impose a tax for middle class families? He went on talking about the Medicare for all and talking about his plan, and then Lester Holt to come back and give him another 10 seconds so he re-asked the question, and then he wasted 8 seconds talking about bull job, and then he finally said yeah. So Pete Buttigieg, when they did the whole little in 1 or 2 words, he may have not said 1 or 2 words, but it was straightforward. He answered the question, and I agree with what he said. If I can find.
All right. Was there any other comments that anyone in the voice chat actually wanted to add in before we wrap this up?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You probably said this in one of your videos, but where are you from, Zach?
You're asking where I'm from?
Yeah.
I'm actually, born and raised in the United States. If you're talking specifically, I'm from Texas.
Yes, South Oklahoma.
Actually, I can actually tell you're from Oklahoma, honestly.
Yes, because
I
they're
am
so much
from
better
a
than
state.
everyone else.
I am from a state which which does not pay its teachers. Our roads suck. We have Republicans
North
in the
Carolina.
state. We have Republicans. The Supreme Court just struck down its gerrymandering case, and I was watching. I was at Biscuitville, and
You just say Biscuitville?
Yeah, I don't know if y'all have Biscuitville down there in Texas.
Is that a restaurant?
Yes, it's a fact. They serve breakfast. I was at
Oh, that's
Biscuitville,
what I
and
was asking.
I was in the news on this. Republican was talking about, well, the Democrats need to stop wasting their money on lawsuits and y'all just and draw the lines right.
I'm from a province in Canada called Newfoundland.
It's called what?
Newfoundland.
Oh yeah, we've all heard of that. What are you talking about, Chief?
Okay.
Apparently, Caitlin doesn't know what Newfoundland because she's stupid.
How would I know? I don't know.
Newfoundland isn't real.
Yeah, Canada's not real. What are you talking about? Jesus.
There's like 600.
Either of Australia or Wyoming.
Wouldn't I be the one that's like in the right?
Okay, back on to what you was
No,
talking about.
Caitlin,
How
you're stupid.
Shut up.
back on to what you were talking about. How the whole in 1 to 2 words. What do you want to do? Andrew Yang gave us a statement. Everyone on that stage gave a statement. So I just want to say that.
Too much to heart, dude.
I mean, but this Andrew Yang, he won't be on the debate stage.
He's gonna be on a Yang gang. Hey.
I'm honestly surprised that he made it on the debate stage.
I'm surprised he was there too.
I'm surprised it's not butter.
Also, that cat.
I'm gonna kick your ass.
Also, that cat lady at the end kept on talking about love is gonna win me the White House.
She has an English degree and she wants to show it.
Oh, that was funny. That was funny.
Did somebody just say, "Oh, well, we need another"? Let me not even say that.
Yeah, watch your language. It's a Christian live stream.
I mean, where did they get this lady from? Is she seriously running for president?
I never even heard of her. When as soon as she got on the stage, I'm like, who the hell is this lady?
I'm like,
She's
like,
an author.
I'm like, who the fuck is this bitch? What the fuck? She doing here?
Hey! Watch your mouth.
Did they just?
Hey, you about to be removed. You're about to be muted. I'm not gonna allow that language on this live stream.
Shut up.
Boy,
I already got demonetized.
So what difference does it make? You already been demonetized twice the same night. But yeah,
twice.
Yeah, the yesterday and today. You ain't getting no money.
I got money for the yesterday. I got the other one wasn't demonetized. This one just told me it was like, hey, you're demonetized.
But what did you think about Kamala?
Well, okay, yeah, sorry.
Stop calling me a cuck. I'm on a live stream.
PG, what do y'all think about Kamala? I thought she did fairly well.
I didn't like Kamala. What'd you think?
Why you ain't like Kamala?
She was trying so hard to be quotable the whole time.
Oh yeah, she was.
It was kind of funny.
So was that other dude. He was trying really hard.
Kamala was trying really hard to be quotable because there was one thing
we don't need to be having a food fight. We need to put food on America's tables.
Oh my god, I hate.
Oh yeah,
that.
I'm like,
that was so
Kamala,
funny.
You're just gonna be a Saturday Night Live meme now,
dude. Like
that was so funny.
That was way too hard. Like she was trying way too hard to be quotable on that, and that really made me mad.
I would have been set up here like, look here, y'all call me up here, and y'all got these two old motherfuckers keep on talking. Cut their mics off. I want to talk.
Now all the annoying bitches are gonna be using that quote though.
I have a quote.
No, don't say the quote. I know where you're gonna say it, and I don't want you to say it. I'm on a live stream. Do not say the N-word.
No, hold on.
We are all doomed.
Who finna be using that quote?
I said all the annoying bitches are gonna be using that quote.
Who finna use that?
All the ghetto girls that draw really crappy on Instagram.
They didn't even. I guarantee they didn't even watch the debate. They probably don't know who Kamala Harris is.
White trash girls aren't gonna be watching.
You are white trash. Look at
you.
Look at you. You're drawing. You're garbage.
But yeah, I just think that. I mean, besides her trying to be,
I'm gonna make a highlight of this. PG abuses his girlfriend.
PG. Besides her trying to be quotable, what did you think about her debate performance?
I thought she was pretty strong. Trying to be quotable, that's what made me lose her.
Besides the quotable, like, I think she can go. I don't,
I actually, what I actually said, and I still kind of believe this right now. I think she'd make a great AG. I don't think she'd make a great president, but I think she would make a good attorney general.
Why do you say that? Because she was attorney general for California.
She was attorney general for California. She was a district attorney for San Francisco.
Yeah, but wasn't she controversial because of a stance on the death penalty, something like that?
I think so. I think I've heard of that, but I think she still
like
has
Biden.
a lot of experience in that, so I think she'd make a good
I like
AG.
Biden in this debate. Biden just.
I don't think even Biden. I was expecting Biden to do really well, and Biden he was getting slaughtered by Harris.
You have to understand that Biden don't give a flying hell about this debate. He didn't even need to show up because you have to understand Biden, as of now, Biden is pretty much just going to lock up the nomination. So he's sitting up here like, I really don't need to be here. So I'm not, I'm just here for the ratings,
I was Obama's guy.
Yeah, but why?
Well, everyone knows that. I mean, everyone knows that.
Oh wow,
Yeah, that's just kind of what he was shouting the whole time.
Hey, listen to this. There's two approval polls for the president. Two of them have him in a positive.
We're not talking about the president's approval rating right now.
He's a big name.
I think his approval is going to be at least above 50% by election day.
I don't think so. I do not think so.
It's very possible.
Because as much crap.
44.6, which I mean that's actually very, very high for him.
No, it's not.
It's very high for him.
What's the 44%? That's around average of what he's been at for the last 3 years.
This was his low point. He had like this is an average of basically all these polls.
What are you reading? Are you on
Real Clear
538?
Politics. I'm showing it to Caitlin.
Go to 538. That's what I use.
Oh yeah, 538. It's another good one.
It
says that his average right now is 44.6, while 51.3 disapprove. It's a spread of 6.7.
That's not good.
It's not good, but as long as you have above 50%, after election day, you're gonna do pretty good.
You don't have 50% of the country. I just see my whole philosophy is if you don't have 50% of the country approving of your job, I don't see how you can get reelected.
Yeah, but I mean,
Reagan,
Congress still has record low approval ratings right now.
Well, that's because no one fucking likes Congress. Because Congress is a bunch of idiots.
What else? Let me check. Democratic nomination. Yeah, Biden's still in the lead right now.
He's going to be in the lead. I mean,
I'm surprised Warren is like number 3 right now.
That's because of that student loan thing.
Yeah.
I don't, and you see how better
Warren and Sanders had this big jump on the 26th, but Harris and Buttigieg are like neck and neck right now. Then the next one is O'Rourke.
We'll see the poll. We'll see now. You gotta look at how the poll's gonna look after this debate. But Buttigieg is 3rd in Iowa.
Biden's leading in Texas.
What is Biden? In Nevada? God damn.
Probably in Argentina. That's where everyone is.
Argentina? Yes.
Yes, with his best pals, Senor Hilter, Dos Pac, and Juan F. Kennedy.
I'm gonna beat your ass.
But apparently, an Emerson poll has Buttigieg beating Trump.
Hey, what's going on, Roboss? Welcome to the live stream. We are actually still discussing the debate after it is done. I'm actually getting ready to wrap this live stream up. So if you want to talk about it, go ahead and join my Discord, and we will be talking about it there as well. We're probably still going to be on the voice chat afterward, but I'm definitely going to be wrapping this live stream up soon.
You know, someone was talking about how I believe it was I don't want to call any names, but they was talking about how they're making it seem like there were more progressives and socialists in the Democratic Party.
There are a lot of progressives, and progressives are starting to take over more and more
No, they're not.
seats.
Oh,
No, they're
I
not.
was Noah in the chat earlier. Just I
Did
was
you
one
say
was
that?
saying that? Yeah, I was one saying that.
Well, let me just say this. And I said there are more non-progressive Democrats than progressives.
You can refuse to look at it as the way it is
Okay,
right now,
I've been
but that's
looking
what's
to,
going on.
but I've been saying I'm not denying that progressives are becoming a more stronger force, but to sit up here and say that non-progressive Democrats are a minority in the Democratic Party in
It's to a
2019
point to where you're gonna need progressive votes in 2020.
okay.
It's
I
trendy
mean,
and cool now
it's
to be
not. I
progressive
mean,
for the far left.
again, in my opinion, I still think that there are a lot more moderates and liberals and blue dog Democrats in the party. If you put all three of those groups together, I still think that in 2019 and in 2020, that there's still going to be more blue dog, moderate, and liberal Democrats than progressive Democrats.
I think a
when
lot
we
of them
get
are being
on,
pushed away.
I
think a lot of moderate Democrats are being pushed away.
Well, I mean, yeah, a lot. I'm starting to get pushed away.
Yeah,
because
like
you have to understand
that's why the Democratic Party is so balls fucked by 2020.
But see, I'm willing. But see, the thing about me is, I am a moderate Democrat, but I do like some of these progressive policies, such as Medicare for all. But I cannot 100% get behind that. But I'm willing to compromise and sit at the negotiation table with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Pete Buttigieg and the rest of these any other progressives, and let's come up with a compromise that will fit the American people. Okay, I'm all about helping the American people. Okay, I want health care. Okay, and I don't want to sit up here and divide. And I don't think we should divide the Democratic Party, because a divided Democratic Party will not win. But in my opinion, 2019, y'all make it seem like the progressives is taking over the Democratic Party. They haven't.
They are.
They are, but they haven't completely taken over the party.
So whenever you know someone's taking something over, do you try to stop them from taking over before they have complete control, or do you just say, okay, well, they're not taking it over yet?
Backtrack on what I said just there. I think what's happening with the progressive is the progressives still feel cheated. They feel cheated because of Bernie of 2016. They feel cheated, so they're going to get up and make all this noise and do all this so they can get some attention.
I agree with what Robot says too. He says progressives get all the attention and media coverage.
Hold on, wait a minute. But to say that the progressives have taken over or are taking over the Democratic Party in 2019 is a bit early to say that, in my opinion, because if you really think about it, if all the non-progressive Democrats get up and say, look, we're not going to keep on listening to all this banner. Okay, if you want to sit down at the negotiation table and write up a platform for 2020, by all means join us. If you don't, then we recommend you leave the Democratic Party and you go form your own party. That's what I have to say. If no progress, I'm willing to work with progressives. I have nothing against progressives. But if you're not willing to sit down and talk, and if you're just going to be ridiculous, I'm just going to say leave the Democratic Party, go form your own party, and we'll see you on the campaign trail.
Yeah, but that's how you crack open an entire party that has so much power. And that's how the Democrats lose.
I mean,
once that happens and then they actually make a new party, they're going to lose so many seats that they are never going to get power for a long time.
Again,
even if they make a caucus and even if they make a coalition, there's never going to be another Democratic Congress ever again.
Again, right now in 2019, there are still more liberals, there are still more moderates, and more blue dogs in the Democratic Party. They may not be as loud as the progressives, but they're there. Trust me, because I'm one of them. And I know a lot of moderate Democrats and liberal Democrats. They're there. Trust me, they're there. They're just not making no noise right now.
No one is saying that moderate Democrats don't exist. We're saying that they're not the ones that are like on the podium like they should be.
Okay, I understand. I understand you're not. I understand everyone's not saying the moderate's not there, but what I'm comprehending is everyone is trying to say that the progressives have taken over the Democrat. I've heard that so many times, this gets old.
The reason they're saying that is just because all of the people that you saw tonight are very progressive. They're not saying that every single Democrat is now becoming progressive.
And that's coming. That's coming. She's saying that as someone who supports. Yeah, she's a very big Democrat. She supports Democratic policies, and she's
I'm a
voting Democrat.
I'm a card-carrying Democrat.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we don't have cards in Texas. Sorry about that.
But what I'm saying is, well, I don't have a card because it got stolen. I got to go order me a new one. But
someone stole his card.
Yeah, someone stole my black card, my Democratic card.
I did that because Oklahoma's so much better, and I have to go. Bye-bye, and good night. God bless you all. And
hey, man, thank you so much for joining in, and make sure to join in next time.
Okay, when is next time?
I'll let you know.
But you know,
okay then, and good night. I will pray for you, and God bless.
I love you.
Everybody I love you too, but not in a homosexual way. You do support gang, so I just have to make sure we're clear about that.
Hey, it's not gay if the toes touch.
Well, yeah, but when
go get out of here, you little sexy man.
All right, yeah, I've got to go. Bye. Good night.
Bye.
But you know, I just think
that's how you lose subscribers.
Yeah.
He's gonna say, "I want a refund."
The problem with the Democrats is, oh Lord, he's back. Well, I thought you was going to bed, but anyway, I just think that what all these Democrats need to do is, number one, I don't care if you're progressive or moderate or whatever, you're not going to win if you're going to spend your entire political campaign talking about Trump. You got to talk about the issues. You got to get out here and talk to these folks in Iowa and Ohio and Pennsylvania, and North Carolina, and Georgia, okay, Colorado, and sit up here and tell them, okay, this is what my plans are. And in my opinion, all in there, like,
sorry, I forgot to mute my mic.
I mean, that's the one thing. And before we go, I'm gonna have to go ahead and wrap this up. But and I've been saying this for a little bit now. Whenever Democrats win in 2020, or whenever Trump wins in 2020, and then in 2024, I think 2024 is going to be the most crucial election for Democrats, because they're going to have nothing to fight on.
Okay.
Ever.
See that right there. See, you're trying to sit up here and say, "Oh, the Democrats gonna fall off the map." No. Okay.
No, they're not. I'm not saying they're falling off the map. I'm saying they're not going to have any valid arguments for their campaign, because
what are you talking
about? Their whole campaign right now is to be anti-Trump.
Okay,
that's true.
I mean, but come on, let's get real here. If we win in 2020, then we still always going to be talking.
You're winning in 2020.
Wait. I'm going to say my rebuttal, and then you can talk. Okay? Do we need a red light in here or a buzzer or something? But there's all to. But I mean, right now, I mean, if you look at 2012, the Republicans were all anti-Obama. Okay, so my thing is, if we win in 2020, or if we don't win in 20 or whatever, there's always going to be talking points. There's always going to be healthcare. There's always going to be immigration. There's always going to be education. And in fact, we can come up with new topics to talk about, such as the space. We can start talking about space if you want to, but to say that
Democrats are going to defund all that, though.
But to say that the Democrats are not going to have anything to run on is foolish to say. Okay, and I think, I mean, we can say the same thing about the Republicans.
I don't trust Democrats to manage space policy, because the last time we had a major program that was going to take us somewhere, to the moon and Mars and everything like that, Yeah, it was defunded and canceled by a Democratic president.
Wasn't there a Democratic president that started the moon? That started the plans to go to the moon? Wasn't that John F. Kennedy?
Yeah,
and Lyndon
yeah,
Johnson?
okay, that was whenever we first went to the moon now. But I'm talking about in the modern 21st century, whenever we should be going back to the moon, basically the one plan that we had to go, which was the Constellation program, it was completely canceled and defunded.
By who? What president?
President Obama. It was started by George W. Bush and it was canceled by Obama.
Well, when was it canceled? Was it in the first term?
2010.
Look at our freaking economy at the time.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but
I mean, dude, we were like, our economy was so far in the goddamn toilet that.
Yeah, but we had the money to spend $800 billion on a stimulus package.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about the stimulus package was one of the reasons how we got out of the economic.
I completely disagree, but I do not have time to debate that.
I'm going to sit up here and say most Democrats believe in Keynesian economics, which basically, and for the 27 people, how many people got watching this? For the people that's in the voice chat and the people that's in the YouTube chat, Keynesian economics basically means when we get into a recession, you spend money for infrastructure and for other stuff to boost the economy. And that's what Obama did. And if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, if you want to say it didn't work, okay.
All right, I think that's all the time we have for tonight. So, thank you all. Oh, hey, what's going on, Kaioken? Man, right as I want to leave, like all the viewers actually start coming back.
Cut it off.
Yeah. But anyway, wait, let me read what's going on in the chat. Nearly missed it. JFK, I think, comma, Obama. Oh, comma, what the fuck is that? TARP. What the heck is TARP?
It's government assistance for needy families.
I've actually never heard of that program before.
Yeah, you never heard of
Troubled Asset Relief Program?
Yeah.
What?
Bank bailouts.
Oh, that was the bank bailout? Oh, shit.
God damn, son. How the hell you gonna...
Can't always know everything all the time.
Yeah, I know. I holy shit, I've been streaming for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Are you gonna get off voice chat or are you just ended the stream?
I'm gonna do both. But I'll be back in a minute. Hey Kaioken, join the Discord in the description because you're a cool guy. As well as Roboss and everyone watching right now. I'm actually going to be posting a link in the description in the chat, so you guys can actually join. But everyone, go ahead and join that Discord right now. But in any case, guys, thank you so much for watching this live stream. This was the first 2020 Democratic presidential debate that featured people like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the very annoying Christian Gillibrand.
For Christ's sake, she's a joke.
I'm only saying that because Caitlyn really didn't like listening to her.
I mean, she was just acting like a freak. Like, I understand your record on women's rights, but you don't need to spout it off every 30 seconds. Like, get
Give someone else a chance to talk at least.
Yeah,
right. my boy people, like everyone didn't.
Hey, my boy Yang didn't get the time that he needed.
Yang.
It's because he's Chinese.
He shouldn't even be on the damn stage.
Hey, he's the only person I have ever seen want to push for VAT.
Sitting up here talking about, like, yeah, I'll push a VAT. I really don't think he has an understanding of economics. I really don't. Because he's over here talking, like, I've never heard of trickled up economics. And he's talking about Yang.
Hey, he's the first guy to actually say we're gonna make it like a really expensive program and we're gonna pay for it using something. So I actually give him a lot of credit for that. And that boosted my respect for him.
All the progressives literally sit up here and say, yeah, we're going to have universal health care and we're going to increase tax for the rich. I mean...
But taxing the rich isn't gonna do that. Just taxing the rich, you're gonna have to increase taxes on the middle class or even the lower class.
I'm not for putting VAT on top of a sales tax.
If we get rid of, I will be a supporter of the
can't-
VAT if we get rid of the sales tax all
I don't
all 50
think-
states, and then we just have one flat federal VAT.
Well, see, the thing is, the sales tax is another way states get revenue, so the states is not going to cut their fucking revenues. Come on here, and I don't.
True, because Texas literally just has a sales tax. What if that money goes back to the states, though?
The money, dude, the VAT. How is the VAT going to go to the states when it's going to the UBI? Like, his plan is stupid.
Shit.
Didn't they say that?
Dang, my boy Yang Gang is fucking retarded.
Past $2 trillion, and then 1.5 trillion of that would go back into the economy.
Are you Australian?
No.
Oh, you bitch.
Look
That's
here.
All right. This is all the time I have for it.
Well,
We've been doing this for 3 hours, guys.
We'll cut the stream off. I want to talk. God damn.
Yeah. Well, I have to leave afterward, but I'll be back. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the stream short, guys. Shut up. For those of you who are watching right now, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Thank you guys so much for watching this live stream, and for those who are actually interested, if you guys, this is actually going to be one of the last chances that you guys actually have to get